Ghislaine. Yeah.
She had ex-British military as security.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good topic. I'm more comfortable talking about that than the Catholic. I don't know what I can contribute to the Catholic one.
So we don't have to talk about the Catholic Church one. I think the bigger topic here is prosecuting somebody who's long since dead. Like that.
What does that look like?
Right, but you have no defense. You can't defend yourself.
It's symbolic, right? Makes you
No.
feel good. Makes you feel good. Makes you feel warm.
Not
A cup of coffee or blanket.
Not if you went to Bishop Sullivan.
Hey, it's not Bishop Sullivan.
That's my point. And why is it not Bishop Sullivan anymore?
It's Thursday. I'm going to jinx myself by telling you this. Thursday evening, I'm on court TV for 2 hours as a commentator.
For 2 hours?
I don't think. Not like 2 hours of me just talking. More like they do a case, and then the anchors talk about something, and then I get asked my opinion.
Yeah.
I think the important thing here is my ego is going to grow like the Grinch's heart.
Okay.
Unless I fuck it up. If I mess it up, then I'm out.
Yeah.
Yo, it's like the Eminem song. You got one shot.
Right.
Except I'm not rapping. I'm talking.
Ran through that a good bit with the BBC. My stint on the BBC was
I know you were on the BBC.
not the television, BBC Radio.
Huh?
Yeah.
I know you were on BBC Radio.
A lot after Katrina.
Cool.
Yeah, it started off weird. It started off I just happened to be the only one in the building at the time the phone rang. And they're like,
they wanted you.
right.
They wanted Brian.
Right, for like 3 weeks, and then they didn't at all ever again. It leaves you wondering, did I fuck up?
Or did the hurricane just kind of...
It was Katrina. I mean, I guess...
How long did that story be a story? How long was Katrina?
Outside of here, I have no idea.
Right.
I mean, I worked in the building where all the New Orleans stations moved to, so locally, it's still a story.
Right, but for a British radio...
Right, I got no clue. At what point do you start taking the bus? Gas prices are up again. And again, and again, and again.
Electric buses?
That's going to be funny if bus fare goes up. But I thought they was electric, yo.
How much does a bus cost to ride anyway?
I don't know. Can't be too much, it's the bus. Whoa! Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you can't watch the future ones yet. Uh-huh.
I just assumed that you were streaming live now. You're not?
I don't know, Jake, you said we're up or not? Oh, shit.
Yeah, 3 people watching.
What? Glad I didn't pick my boogers.
I'd like to do a radio show from the bus.
I'll do a radio show from if they'll pay me.
Like just ride the bus, talking to people.
Yeah.
Little adventures.
Yeah.
Like kung fu. On the bus.
I guess I should get ready to be all professional and what have you. Eh.
Okay. Oh. Good night. .606 to Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane, and we are off and running on this busy, busy Wednesday morning. All right, gas prices went up again. I feel like this is going to be the lead every single day. Dive in just a second. Let's give you the rundown. Attorney Franz Borghardt is going to be by for Legally Served in about 20 minutes from right now. Got a stack of topics to talk about with Franz. Not the least of which is, what is a juror required to volunteer when it comes to information, and what is it? How much of this is on the attorneys in questioning them? Talking about, and if you were listening to the radio just before we came on air, a juror in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial claims they didn't lie; they just omitted something, lie by omission, I guess. But how much of that responsibility is on the juror, and how much is on the attorney? We'll talk about that in our Legally Served segment. I also got a few other topics within Legally Served that we are going to cover. In the 7 o'clock hour, let's talk about the Ronald Greene case. More specifically, the committee that's been formed and met as of yesterday out at the state capitol. Their initial meeting was yesterday out at the state capitol. The first of many, many meetings, as they will be meeting weekly. Tanner Magee, House Pro Tem Tanner Magee, is on that committee. He will join us at 7:15 to talk about it. At some point, I'm going to have to talk Constitutional Convention with Tanner as well. Probably going to put that off for today because we got too much business at hand. 7:35, Congressman Garret Graves is going to be on for D.C. Current. We speak with the congressman every single week. We will do so today. Number of topics to talk about with Congressman Graves. Among them, we're getting back into nutria again. Oh, yeah. Congressman Graves introduced bipartisan legislation that would direct the U.S. Postal Service to issue a combating invasive species semi-postal stamp. Nutria stamp, y'all. I'm about it. I'm all about it. In the 8 o'clock hour, State Representative Valerie Hodges. We're going to be talking about the Comeet River diversion. And have you heard of the Apifix procedure? Neither have I. You know why? It's only been done once. Dr. John Faust from Our Lady of the Lake Children's is the one who performed the procedure. I believe it was last week, might have been the week before. Anyway, this sounded really, really cool. Wanted to get him on. We will talk about that at 8:40, plus top stories and trending, plus the outside in, plus this day in history, plus, well, a whole stack of topics as we move through the show this morning, one of which is, yes, gas prices are up again. It's looking like this is going to be rinse repeat for some time. And if you've followed the show at all for the last 2 years, almost 2 years to the day, mind you, we know how to do rinse repeat for some time. We're now well over $4.10 per gallon as a nationwide average. On my way in this morning, there's a Cracker Barrel on Government Street. Was at about $4.19 a gallon. $4.19 a gallon in Baton Rouge. When we give the nationwide average, we always say, yeah, it's way higher in California, it's way higher in other places. $4.19 a gallon in Baton Rouge. That was not where we wanted to be, and there's no end in sight. Clearly, we're in the middle of a surge, and we know a thing or two about dealing with surges. So I'm proposing this right here, right now, at 10 minutes after 6 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. What if we all just stop driving? Just everybody stop driving. Not forever, just for 2 weeks. Everyone stop driving for 2 weeks, and we can flatten the curve. Nothing? Okay. No comparison there? Okay. Seriously, I want to know on YouTube, what are you doing? Are you changing your habits? What are you doing when it comes to curbing your fuel intake? What are you doing to help maintain your budget amidst this surge, amidst this crisis? Are you combining trips? Are you carpooling? Are you taking the bus? Dun, dun, dun. Let me know. Comment on YouTube. What are you doing to help stave off the effects in your wallet when it comes to the price at the pump? And oh, by the way, number of news outlets reporting yesterday, and this is not a surprise. It's only a matter of time before we see the effects at the grocery store. Even more so than the inflation we've already experienced. It's only a matter of time before we see the effects in everything that comes our way. You name it, at some point along the way, it was either on a truck, in a car, on a plane. Everything that we deal with in life will have the cost of fuel factored into the price. So get ready for more inflation. Yay! Let me know on YouTube. Taking your comments all morning long. All right. Also, when we come back from the break, let's talk a little bit about LSU basketball in our sports segment. Why? Well, because the NCAA decided to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of Will Wade's suspension. That's a hell of a tease. Quick break, coming back with sports. Before we take that break, though, I want to remind you about the folks over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. I know, 12 minutes after 6 o'clock in the morning, you're not thinking about lunch yet. Maybe you should. Maybe I should plant that seed in your head first thing in the morning, and you'll be craving a Mooyah Burger all day long. You'll be craving the sweet potato fries and the honey. You dip the sweet potato fries in the honey. It is such a game changer. It's one of those ones, if you know, you know. If you don't, get in the game. Both locations of Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Bluebonnet at Highland, Segan just north of Industrialplex. You're going to find fresh cut ingredients. You're going to find freshly baked potato buns. You are going to find certified Angus beef and the best customer service around. Ring the bell on the way out the door. Whether you like it spicy like a double Diablo, whether you like the classic cheeseburger, whether you like the hamburger dog, which has a hamburger and a hot dog on the same bun, or you like to build your own. Bluebonnet at Highland, Segan just north of Industrialplex. You got your lunch covered today. Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes.
Picture this. Trying to hire someone or buy something and click on their website, but it takes forever to load. And
Working from home, says Eric.
probably move on. If you're concerned,
Byron says if we keep our vehicles 15 feet apart, it should help.
serving part-time in the Army National Guard,
Save gas mileage while drafting. I can't change my driving habits unless I change my job. There you go.
to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and home
Yeah, John's just bleeped on this one. Nothing you can do. And like, I would take the bus if the bus had any way, shape, or form could conform to my schedule. I'm not going. No. It's an unreasonable expectation, so I'm not going to make it. But to leave my house at 4 o'clock in the morning, like I wake up at 3:30, I'm out the door at 10 minutes after 4. There's no bus at 10 minutes after 4 going up and down Goodwood to take me all the way up Government Street. That's an unreasonable expectation. So let's figure. There's a window on Saturday at 2 where I can clear the 2. It's either 2 or 3. I gotta see where I can clear the show for Go Rouge. Now that softball's here. I don't understand how 6 different people can be commenting when only 4 people are watching.
I have 7 people watching.
Okay. Saw your boy yesterday.
T-ball?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's not on my team. He's on purple. I'm coaching blue. He, So Shannon walking him across. I'm like, I guess I don't have him. But wait till basketball season. He'll be
Do
in.
they stay on the same teams?
For basketball?
Yeah.
I'm going to go get him. Well, no, he's going to move up a grade.
He's
No,
gonna be
well,
first. He'll be first.
Oh, wait.
Can you, wait.
No.
Can you strategically, recruit?
No.
Yeah, I love it.
If I don't have him next year,
I need to work on his running. He loves basketball, but I need to work on his running.
Got 13, 14, and 15? 616, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. So, interesting anniversary yesterday. Yesterday was the third anniversary of Will Wade's suspension. 3 years! And on that anniversary, Sports Illustrated reported that LSU had received a notice of allegations from the NCAA regarding violations within the men's basketball program. 3 years ago, Will Wade was suspended for this, and we're still talking about the same story, still talking about the same allegations, still talking about the same recycled headlines over and over and over again. Glenn Gilbo, SEC columnist for Outkick.com, says the contents of that announcement of allegations means LSU will face some punishment, but what it's for and what it will be remain in question.
That means that the penalties, depending on what the violations are, will be coming soon, and it really is, LSU really is going to get some kind of penalty.
So this is the allegations are against LSU, but this all boils down to Will Wade. He was caught on tape allegedly discussing payments for Javonte Smart. Javonte Smart has long since completed his tenure at LSU and is crushing it in the G League, as I understand it. In 2019, LSU, like I said, LSU suspended Wade, amended his contract. Now Gilbo says those amendments could come into play here.
He agreed to some conditions in his contract, one of which says he can be fired with cause, meaning he gets none of the money owed to him, if he's even investigated for level 1 or level 2. Now, we don't know that yet. All we know is that they got a notice of violations. We don't know what level they are, minor or major right now.
I want to double check that to make sure if it's. I'm pretty sure he has to have been found guilty of a level 1 or level 2. Well, we'll dig into that a little bit later. If LSU is facing any major violations, Gilbo says the clock's likely winding down on Wade's time in Baton Rouge, despite his on-court success. This is where I tend to disagree a little bit. If this were going to happen, why hasn't it happened yet is the biggest question, especially if Athletic Director Scott Woodward can mitigate the program's punishment by cutting Wade, by letting him go.
It may help LSU's probation down the road if they let him go. Sometimes that's how it works. If the school releases a coach, it softens their penalties. So if major violations are found, I would think he'd be in danger of losing his job.
If major violations were found, we would have found them. It was 3 years ago yesterday he was suspended for this same stuff. And don't think for a second, and I know this is going to sound conspiratorial, but don't think for a second that there's nothing to the timing of the release of these accusations. It's tournament week. You think when Will Wade hits the media table, he's going to be asked about who he's playing on Friday, or is he going to be asked about this? Is the team going to have to read about this or read about basketball? Here comes Fox Business Report. I got to clean up some stuff on the back end before we dive in. Hey.
Kryptonite. You need kryptonite. You can't stop Will Wade.
Bro, it's getting tired. It's so tired.
Well, so I don't know sports enough to know the lag time of how long does it take for them to do an investigation and then do something about it. Like Les Miles, Title IX, there was a reason for that delay, right?
nobody said anything at the time was the
Well, yeah,
reason.
because he was winning. Nobody said anything, and
Hey, good morning, Christy. I thought I saw you text there. What's happening? Morning, Tiffany. Eric says Wade got dirt on Hillary or Carol Baskins.
Carol Baskins.
I don't think he'd survive that.
That woman kills.
Hey, come to me here. One more sports note, and then we're going to dive into Legally Served right after the break in traffic. LSU baseball had to be moved from last night to tonight. I shouldn't say had to be. It was moved. They were supposed to play last night, but due to the possible inclement weather, it was rescheduled. So tonight, 6:30 at the box, LSU will be back in action. You'll hear it on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Pregame starts at 6. All right, that way it's separate from that. Like when we come in with the Legally Served Open, I'm not doing any housekeeping there. But my guess is we're going to start off by BSing about Will Wade anyway.
Bulletproof.
See, I don't think he's bulletproof. I just don't think they have anything. I've heard the
Do you
phone
remember
call.
my commentary back in the day where I was like, I'm biased. I like Coach Wade. I'm a big fan of LSU basketball, and I love Will Wade. I can't be unbiased about this. I think they kind of had some stuff, and
What, though? Well, I think the other point...
he's recorded.
Saying what?
What does he exactly say?
We're making him a damn strong offer, I believe, was the phrasing. Which, is very ambiguous.
You sound like a criminal defense attorney. I
do.
like it.
I do. Hey, are we frozen? Okay. It's just my pooter. All right. Do. Whoa! Dropsies. It's all right. Oh, snap, that rolled, huh? That's what?
But, to be fair, going behind you and grabbing my earbuds is a low point of my day. Then that's not an entirely bad day.
I mean,
Have you been working out?
Not as much as I'd like. I got a problem with my earbuds. They're not loud.
You can restart them. There's a way of starting them, and that occasionally helps out.
Okay. And also, they don't drain power at the same rate.
Right.
Like the left ear, it goes quickly. The right ear keeps all its power. I don't understand that. What's happening, Sonny? Yes, it is time for Legally Served. Yes, it is. Is that? I'm still not. There we go. Yes, it's time for Legally Served. Yes, it's time to welcome in attorney Franz Borghardt. What's happening, dude?
Hey, fellas, what's going on? For the folks watching on YouTube,
Yes.
on Talk 107.3,
Yes.
blessings to your morning. Blessings.
We got a lot of ground to cover today, but
Where you want to start?
well, so we're going to dive back into. I was talking about Will Wade in sports.
Kryptonite. You need to bring kryptonite. Bulletproof.
Honestly, I don't think they have what they think they have or what they're touting to have. Because why would this drag on this long? I know you're
Why bringing up now? Why make it?
Because it's tournament time. That's why.
Right. So
And I know that sounds conspiratorial or whatever, but don't think for a second that why bring it up now again now?
I believe in Will Wade.
Me too.
All right.
Me too. So he can be kind of a jerk and kind of abrasive.
That's what I want from my basketball coaches.
I want him from all my coaches, really.
Okay.
I mean,
okay. Outside the court, don't be a jerk, don't be abrasive. But on the court,
you know what though? I can go either way with that. I like the coaches who are nice to the media, nice to the fan base, and whatnot. But I have no problem with a guy who throws an elbow once in a while, which
I like it.
Interestingly enough, is a basketball reference. So, all right, we've never talked about the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. I don't think we ever talked about.
We've
Epstein,
talked
did we?
about jurors disclosing things very generally.
Yeah.
And I want to park a question for you after you do the intro to this.
Okay.
Can a juror be charged with a crime if they lie during jury selection?
Okay.
Park that question. We're going to park that question.
Put a pin in it. A juror who voted to convict Ghislaine Maxwell of sex trafficking testified under oath on Tuesday that he made an inadvertent mistake when he filled out his jury questionnaire form, an admission that could upend her conviction. The juror, who was granted immunity to testify, indicated that in the pretrial questionnaire he was not a victim of sexual abuse. But under oath Tuesday, he said that he had been sexually abused by a stepbrother and his friend when he was 9 and 10 years old. So, the questions we were talking about beforehand were, is it, when you're dealing with a trial that involves something like sexual abuse, your own past trauma can affect your decision-making?
So in my experience, and by the way, jury selection, voir dire means literally translated, speak truth.
Right.
So their job, potential jurors' job, is to just be honest about questions that are asked them. In my experience, generally, the judge, in an introductory phase of jury selection, will ask the jurors either directly or they'll fill out a questionnaire, have you ever been a victim of a crime before? Have you or someone you know ever been the victim of a crime before? If it's a sex offense case, sexual assault, rape, you name it, they will generally ask, have you ever been the victim of a sexual assault or a rape? Okay. Now, how you ask the question is an art because it is a very intrusive question, right? Mm-hmm. It is a very difficult thing to talk about. But generally, the judge will ask, and if you're worth your salt as a criminal defense attorney or as a prosecutor, you're going to ask.
Yeah.
If she was in fact asked, if the juror was in fact asked, and it slipped their minds, that's one thing. If they were asked and they lied about it under oath, that's another thing. And by the way, once you're under oath, you can be charged with a crime for lying under oath.
Right.
It's called perjury.
Mm-hmm.
Perjury. Or is it a case of, I wanted to disclose it, but I just couldn't because the emotional trauma of my assault from all this time back didn't allow me to do it. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, so that one right there, I think, should be thrown out as garbage because we're talking about the emotional trauma that a number of other children have had to go through.
So the issue is was a juror not disclosing or concealing this information because they wanted to be on a jury and they had an axe to grind, which is the whole reason we vet out bias, Brian. The reason we don't want a sexual assault victim on a sexual assault case is they may be biased. This may not be the right trial for them.
Okay, which is all reasons to remove yourself from the jury selection process altogether. There's so many more questions than there are answers. We're just getting started, but we have to break for news. We got CBS News coming your way, followed by our local news. We'll check traffic. We'll check weather. After that, Legally Served will continue on the back end of this, and this is just one of a few topics we've got to cover as the segment wears on. So we're going to take a quick break, coming right back at it after this, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Oh, don't forget, in our next hour, we are speaking about the Ronald Greene case with Tanner Magee, who's on the committee investigating it.
Which phase of the Ronald Greene case are they investigating?
I have my headphones on. Do what?
Which phase of the Ronald Greene case are they investigating? How it is that someone in a traffic stop can get murdered by the police, one. Or two, how is it that someone who's murdered by the police are then later said to be dead because of some fictitious reason, and then there's this massive cover-up? Or three, are they covering both?
The first part belongs to the police. That has to.
You don't think the legislature should be concerned about that too?
No,
Okay.
I don't. It's not their job.
Okay.
The cover-up, exposing the cover-up is their job.
Good morning, Byron. Some people like to be on juries because they want to serve the community, and that is the highest.
I've never taken part in the pride.
Hold on. It is the highest form of unelected civil service that most citizens do. Like, without running for office, one of the biggest forms of civic service that you can do as a human being in the United States is serve on a jury. Unelected.
I had my neighbor's mail delivered to me once, and I brought it to their house.
Okay,
It's about the same.
That's like a tab level of civic service. Paying your taxes. No, that's an obligation. I don't know if that's a service. Depends on who you talk to.
Technically, it's voluntary.
Is it? Come and get it, Uncle Sam.
You bastards.
So to Galen's point, generally what I do, and I'll talk about this when we come back, is if someone discloses that they're the victim of a sexual assault, I will ask to approach with that potential juror so that we can have a conversation about it. I don't need to get into the nitty-gritty, dirty details of the sexual assault, but I need to know, was the sexual assault
by your stepbrother?
Well, here's the thing. Are we talking sexual assault? You're at a parade and somebody walks up to you and grabs your butt? Are we talking about sexual assault like you were abused by a priest for a decade?
Right.
There's different iterations of sexual assault, right? And I'm not trying to invalidate or lessen the first version or the first example. It's just you need to know what you're dealing with.
We're going to touch on the Ronald Greene thing just from the standpoint of as far as investigations go. What are they going to discover now that couldn't have been discovered over the last 5 years?
Well, to some degree, I feel like the hearings of the legislature are a bit of it's pageantry is the word I'm going to use.
When it's the U.S. Congress, normally the Senate, yes, I completely agree with that. It's grandstanding. When the Senate investigated steroids in baseball, I'm like, what are you guys doing here? All you're looking to do is develop sound bites and everything. And it's sound bites and photo ops, This committee, I don't think is going to make themselves all that available. I got Tanner on this morning, and then after that, I think you're not going to hear about this on a regular basis. So, yes, I've been selected for jury duty once. I was promptly dismissed. Not promptly. I had to sit there for an entire afternoon.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
It was quite intentional that I had to sit there for the whole afternoon, too.
Were you being punished?
Yeah.
Why were you being punished?
I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, if I'm told at 11...
Well, you're not... So, look, Weathers writes, I've been called 4 times, but I've been denied. Well, you weren't denied. You just weren't selected. There may be a myriad of reasons you weren't selected.
Reasons he was denied.
If I have a black defendant and someone comes in, and I'm not saying Sonny is this guy, but I'm just saying if somebody comes in and says, I hate black people, probably not picking that guy as a jury.
Right. You're denying him. I don't understand why you're parsing words.
I will it's a preemptive exception or a challenge for cause, but it's not a denial.
It's the same thing.
It's not like asking a girl out and she says no.
Oh, no. Just because a girl tells you no, it doesn't mean you were denied. It means you just weren't selected.
Speaking of girls, is LSU female basketball season over? Wow. Because I'm thinking about taking my shot.
Selection Sunday is this Sunday. Okay. They will likely host 2 games in the Maravich Assembly Center.
Okay.
If they can win 2 games. I'm worried about that. Well, they're going to win their first one easy peasy. And Kentucky was wildfire in the tournament, in the SEC tournament. So, hey, Mike Moncla.
Tiffany says, I was denied and it broke my heart. Tiffany, I would keep you on my jury for about 5 seconds.
Depends on the
I
trial.
pick juries for a living.
Depends on the trial. No, like anybody who watches as many true crime shows and listens to as many true crime podcasts as Tiffany does.
Oh,
I don't want her-
as a prosecutor,
You want that.
Tiffany's on my jury.
Yeah.
And, I tried a few cases as a felony prosecutor in EBR. I did try a few cases here.
Yeah.
And it was great. I had a badge and everything. I want you to wrap your mind's eye around that. Me with a badge.
No.
And the badge had my name on it. It wasn't small, and it wasn't like a coin badge. It was like a full-size.
Your passion in pursuit of a crown of any sort makes me leery of you having a badge of any sort.
I was fair, but stern. I mean, I never walked into the courtroom and was like, I am the law.
The hell you didn't.
It's the best line from a slow movie.
Gotcha.
Byron would never make one of my juries. And I like Byron a lot. I consider Byron a friend. Byron's not making my jury.
Bro, look at the price of gas over there at the Be Quick. Does that say $3.69?
So,
$3.69.
Go Rouge
Damn.
this week. Go Rouge recording this week on Friday. We're going to have Gales. Ice
Are we
cream.
recording at 6 again?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Pretty sure you're going to have Chuck.
We'll figure it out.
Okay. Oop. 637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Legally served with attorney Franz Borghardt, rolling right along. So we're working through jury selection this morning. The Ghislaine Maxwell trial is.
It's an art, by the way.
I have no doubt.
Like, as much as you want an attorney that really can try a case,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of attorneys in the world that make big bucks picking juries.
Oh no, it's an art, much like an interview is an art.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
about
it's-
asking the right questions
it's-
in the right way.
So theoretically, this is really the core of what we were talking about. It is one thing if the lawyers and the judge never ask the specific question and it slipped through the cracks.
That's where I want to go with this, by the way.
Right. A good lawyer, a good judge is going to ask a question or ask the question, the pivotal questions, in such a way as to create a record to where we're going to look at the transcript of what happened and it will be clear whether or not that potential juror, or that juror in this instance, was lying by omission or was never asked the question.
So, lying by omission, never asked the question. Let's start with that, because this was obviously in response to filling out a questionnaire.
Right.
So there would be, I would assume, on a questionnaire, there would be a level of ambiguity to this question.
So the question is generally, have you or anyone you loved been a victim of a crime? Now, I don't know what was on this questionnaire, but the way I've seen it is, have you or anyone you in your circle, your family you love, been the victim of a crime?
Right.
Well, that's unambiguous. Victim of a crime, sexual assault.
Okay.
It isn't a crime. There's no ambiguity there.
But the interpretation of that could be, if it didn't go to trial, if nobody brought charges, if nothing ever came of it.
Well, is a crime only a crime if you're convicted?
I-
No. If you're burglarized and they never catch the person, you're still the victim of a burglary.
So what you're saying is every potential juror out there has to agree with your opinion on what constitutes the
What
level
I'm
of a crime.
saying is, in this case, this juror said, and is on the record saying, I regret not disclosing.
Right.
So they're acknowledging that
Oh.
what? They did not disclose something that was there.
Right.
Right? And we can all agree, whether you think she's guilty or not, the disclosure of this little fact, this factoid, is pretty important. This person probably would not have made the jury had they disclosed that. Right? This is a case about high-level, high-volume sex trafficking
Yes.
of children.
Yes.
This person's not making the jury.
Right.
And how do you decide whether or not, even with overwhelming evidence, how do you decide whether or not that juror brought their bias into the jury deliberation?
You can't. And,
Right.
and that's why there has to be something done with this juror at this point. Because, all right, he says he was distracted, right? Yeah. Okay. If you're listening on
It
the
slipped
radio,
your mind? It slipped your mind?
if you're listening on the radio, you could probably hear the face that Franz just made. Like that, you and me both on this
Poo-poo.
one, man. Yeah.
Poo-poo.
Okay. This is. You remember that scene in Dumb and Dumber when they're going through all the IOUs? They're
Yeah.
like, this one here, Lamborghini, kind of a big deal.
I want to hold on to this one.
The jury questionnaire in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial.
Well,
Kind of
here's
a
the
big deal.
thing.
So I'm throwing out the whole, I was distracted. What was that? I was unfocused. Hadn't had my coffee. Hadn't figured.
So-
I had one guess left on Wordle and I
Think
couldn't
about-
get it.
Think about all the resources and the money that was spent making this trial happen and how long this trial took
Oh yeah.
and how frustrating it is to all the sides of the justice system that we may have to try this case again because this one juror, it slipped their mind. They were distracted.
Well, you had brought up another point going into break that I want to explore as well, because you had said one of the possible scenarios is they kind of buried it down.
Yeah, that is
could-
possible.
Okay, but if that's the case, how is that person not immediately dismissed?
So we know that there are people that are sexually abused or sexually assaulted that bury it, like in their psyche.
Right.
We know this. This happens. Could this process be a triggering event to where they realize, oh yeah, Uncle Tom or Uncle Joe, Uncle Tom, that felt wrong.
Yeah, it sounded.
Uncle Joe abused me when I was 5, and now I'm just now having recollection of it. They need to speak up at that point, right? They need to this just smell. This whole thing smells funny, man. There are people, by the way, so I can be clear. There are people that want to serve on juries. They have an axe to grind, and they will do whatever they need to do, which includes not disclosing important facts to get on juries. I don't know why, but they do.
That's kind of prescribing intent behind the juror, though, who
Okay.
was at best inaccurate.
Well, why would
in filling
someone
out.
who had gone through a sexual trauma want to serve on a sexual human trafficking case? Why would they want to do that? Why would they fail to disclose a very important fact about their past trauma? Why would they want to re-traumatize themselves? Is it maybe because they had an axe to grind?
I've got a better question for you. Why would they come back after the fact and admit that they lied on the questionnaire?
That's weird. That's also weird too.
I mean, if you were unfocused and distracted and flew right through it.
So that's if I'm the prosecutor. If I'm the prosecutor, I'm saying that smells funny because I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know, so both sides have arguments here. If you're the defense, you're salivating, right? Because you've got a juror that says, "Hey, I forgot to disclose something that's really important."
Yeah.
And if you're the defense, that's your possible vehicle to getting a new trial. If you're the prosecutor, you're like, "Hey, did you get bribed? I mean, what are you doing?" Like, and again, it all goes back. This is theoretical, but it all goes back to what's in the transcript. What's in the questionnaire? What can we read that they were asked, and what were their answers in the real time? And that's going to be the pivotal thing. I don't pick a jury. I picked a jury before the pandemic in the Felicianas that was a first-degree rape case. I don't pick a jury in a sexual assault case unless I ask this question. Have you or anyone you cared about ever been the victim of a sexual assault or a violent crime?
Yeah.
That is a question I have to, and I'll even preface it, Brian, by saying, I got to ask you something. It's none of my business other than it's important to my client getting a fair trial. And I'm sorry I have to ask this because it's awkward for me to talk about it, which is the God's honest truth.
One more on this, and we'll pick up with a couple of other topics on the back end after the break. But when they say questionnaire, I'm assuming something that's written out.
Right.
This is not a person-to-person questionnaire. Like
Generally, when we say questionnaire, it's generally a packet of materials that you fill out before you even get to the voir dire process.
Okay, to me, that makes the whole thing more plausible that he was distracted and not really paying attention.
Okay.
I mean, Is there follow-up? Is there oversight? You fill out the questionnaire. Don't you still sit every juror down?
You're sitting down at some point in the process. Hey, this, just so you know, we're not going to talk about the facts, but this case is about human trafficking.
All right. You know what? Now we have to pick. We will continue this one before we get to other topics, but we got to take a break. We're going to check traffic. We're going to check your money now. Coming back at it with Legally Served right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Before we take that break, though, we're counting it down, y'all. Rise LA. We all rise together. Rise LA Business and Industry Luncheon coming up on March 22nd. If you're having trouble with your hiring process, if you're having trouble with your retention rates, I mean, how many employers out there are able to say that, oh, yeah, at this point in the pandemic, we're just smooth sailing and everybody's happy as a lark? Not necessarily the case, not often the case. If you're in that number where you're not having problems, you're lucky. If you're not, there's help. And it's the Rise LA Business and Industry Luncheon. Fred Keller's the founder and chair of Cascade Engineering. He changed his workforce retention rates from 34% to 97%. He took a slew of his own employees, got them off of welfare while raising profits. You can learn how. Visit risela.biz. risela.biz. The luncheon's coming up on March 22nd. You could pick up his strategy and learn how to adopt it to your business with Rise LA. Galen says, hypothetical. A 9-year-old girl gets kissed by her stepbrother. Crime?
How old is the stepbrother?
How old? Yeah, good question. How old is the stepbrother?
And yes, if it's without consent, it could theoretically be a crime.
Dick punch?
If it's without consent, it is a crime.
No dick punches with consent.
Whether or not you should be prosecuted is a separate question for is it technically a black letter crime?
If a dick punch is a sexual assault, then I've sexually assaulted everybody I went to high school with.
Well, that is
not everybody.
So that is part of the. So when we were doing the casing cases, you know, the allegations where you would dick punch someone, you know, oh my God, were you sexually assaulted? Well, you know, more of a flick. Flick. It's not really a punch.
More like the nut taps.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Is that you got to know everything, and now the whole world has to know everything about this person's case,
which is what the juror wants.
You just knew something was going to happen to blow this up out of the water. Okay.
Oh, Sonny. Innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty, Sonny.
He ain't wrong. Got to see Sonny and the crew of Toast, man. He hit us up with a ton of beads.
That's awesome, man.
It was cool. I had a friend on one float, and then I had a friend on the next one on 36, and then Sonny was on 37. But we had to cross the street in between. So carrying the littles like on my shoulders and whatnot. Well, one James on my shoulders. Legally Served with Franz Borghardt continues right after we check Your Money Now. Potential jurors were explicitly asked on jury questionnaire forms if they had been sexually abused, and if so, if it would impact their abilities to be impartial while deliberating. A copy of Juror 50's jury questionnaire showed he stated on the form that he had not been sexually abused. I don't understand how you don't sit every potential juror down and go a questionnaire form. This is the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. It shouldn't be handled on a Scantron. It's like this.
How do you not check that box, though?
Bro.
How do you not check that box? Because you want to be on the jury. Because this is the Ghislaine Maxwell case. Come on.
No. See, I disagree with that.
I see no other motivation.
If he wanted to be on the jury because he wanted the Ghislaine Maxwell case, he would not be coming back later on saying, oopsie diddles. I've been detained.
Need some new Borghardt law firm merch. I feel like the Patagonia is kind of. I feel like I need some new merch.
It's almost summertime, man.
I need
You need some summer merch.
I need some
You need
Borghardt law firm
Hawaiian shirt.
Hawaiian shirt, yes, or cigar shirt, like the cottony.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean,
Bro, you should talk with Will Swilly about that.
I should actually.
You should
Nice
run that
segue
through
in
Haspel.
Yeah.
.652, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Legally served with attorney Franz Borghardt. We got one more segment to go. Now, we were going to close the book on this one, and then more stuff came up. And
It's the gift that keeps on giving all year round.
I mean, so
That's my really bad cousin.
it's all right, Clark. Jurors were explicitly asked on jury questionnaire forms if they had been sexually abused, and if so, if it would impact their abilities to be impartial while deliberating. A copy of Juror 50's jury questionnaire showed he stated on the form that he had not been sexually abused. So let's talk about 50 real quick. We get to call him 50. Let's talk about 50 real quick. One of the things you were saying during the break was if you lie about it, because this is not a matter of the question was ambiguous anymore. It's not.
Yeah, it's pretty unambiguous, right?
Right. So at this point, he lied. Your initial take is that the motivation behind the lie is what?
Generally, a lie of this sort is I want to be on this jury, I have an axe to grind, or I want to be on this jury because this is a high-profile jury. I can't explain to you why some people want to be on juries.
Okay, but
like really want to be on juries. Not the I want to serve and I'm just doing my civil service, my civic service, and if they don't pick me, I'm okay with that. But I will serve. That's different from some folks who just are straight up like, I want to be on this jury. I want to be on OJ's jury.
Right. Okay, here's the thing, though. Neither one of those scenarios makes sense when he comes back after the conviction to say, oopsie diddles, I was wrong.
I have no idea why he, after the fact, I mean, is he bearing his conscience because he feels bad about what he did? Because he didn't say that he did something wrong, right? He kind of was like, he's like, I feel bad. I regret not disclosing it. I didn't lie. Like, huh? That doesn't make any sense.
I was distracted and unfocused. But yet the idea that if he wants on his jury to get her, to put her away for the evil, evil things she's done, then why come back after the fact and potentially risk?
No clue.
Conversely, if you want to be that close to the heat, if you want to be that close to the celebrity trial, do you really want your Juror 50 to come back around and be the guy who mucked it up?
So your problem is, for a high-profile case, if a potential juror said, I've never heard of Epstein before. I don't know who Epstein is.
I wouldn't want that person.
Right. You'd be worried, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of troglodyte living is this person living if they've never heard of Epstein?
Right.
But if they've heard too much about Epstein, then conversely, they're not going to get on there because they've heard too much. I got no understanding of why juror number 50, this juror who failed, who lied, who didn't disclose a very important tidbit about their about their life. I don't know why they came forward later to disclose that, oops, I failed to disclose this.
So
I just know the ramification of it,
Yeah.
which is potentially a new trial.
that's where we're going to go next. But if you want to be that close to the celebrity trial, you don't want to be the person that screwed it up. Ask Steve Bartman. Steve Bartman, the Cubs fan that caught the ball that was going to be caught that would have led to an out. I mean, we still know his name today.
Such a good guy, too. Apparently, he's a wonderful Cubs fan
Yeah.
who,
I mean, he just caught a baseball. That was all.
dude had death threats.
I know.
Like, seriously.
I know. It took decades before they allowed him back in the park.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. All right. Potential new trial. Let's dive into it. What happens here? When you have a new trial after a conviction, prosecutorially, I feel like it should just be, here, y'all watch this, and we'll get new people to decide the same thing.
Smart prosecutor would come and say, hey, we've convicted you once, we'll do it again. Here's an offer. You should accept it. And maybe the offer shaves off some time. Maybe the offer is slightly better than whatever befell this defendant in the first case. That's what a smart prosecutor does. Not because they're lazy, but because everybody's seen each other's hands. Okay? The trade-off, why come down, is the defendant may accept an offer now, knowing that they could easily be convicted,
Right.
to put themselves in a better position. So a lot of times on new trial scenarios, well, look, Jace Crahan. We had Jace Crahan, and we pled him before we retried the case. Why? Because both sides acknowledged, okay.
Oh, he was guilty as hell, yeah.
Well, yeah, but it takes a lot of resources to try this case. There are defenses. There's a strong case for the state. Do we really want to try this again, or do we want to maybe do the deal we should have done in the first case that we weren't able to do in the first case? And that's essentially what we did. And so people come to their senses the second time around, sometimes.
Well, because the writing's on the wall.
Right.
I mean, at that point, you kind of have to know.
Well, there's also the NFL. I'm about to make a sports analogy.
Hey,
there's
now.
also the any given Sunday mentality of, yeah, you beat me on this day, but second time around, I might win. Sometimes that's
That's a level of hubris that I don't even think this trial, retrial would.
Sometimes I try to fly too close to the sun.
I mean, yeah, that would be that. Yeah, that's an undue level of ego. Hey, we got about a minute left. What's coming up on Go Rouge this week?
Ice cream, baby. Gale's Gourmet Ice Cream Creamery. We're going to have Nick, Huff, and Lon on, the fellas that brought you such restaurants as Overpass Merchant and Gale's. They're going to come on and talk about ice cream for an entire hour.
You have two people on about Gale's ice cream, and neither one of them is Gale?
No, there's a story behind it.
Okay. Now I got to know the story.
You could listen to the Go Rouge show on YouTube, on the Go Rouge channel, or at some point this weekend.
Well, so we're at a point with Go Rouge where it's going to be hunt and find outlets because LSU softball starts this weekend. So that's
everybody
pretty much every Friday.
Everybody should have the humility of being bumped for LSU women's softball.
LSU women's softball's good, man.
Okay.
What? They're going back to Oklahoma City, taking it this year, I promise.
Okay.
He is attorney Franz Borghardt. Joins us every single week at this time for Legally Served. Golly, we had like 3 other topics to get into.
Okay.
And there's just not enough time. We got 30 seconds left in this segment.
This is what happens when talent comes on this radio station and helps unpack one legal case. An hour is just not enough. 30 minutes is not enough.
30 minutes was not enough today.
Yeah.
We're not even going to get to the Ronald Greene case and what the legislature can uncover here.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll unpack that with Tanner Magee.
Sure.
We're going to check news. We're going to check top stories and trending, and then Tanner Magee will join me in next hour. In the meanwhile, appreciate you, Franz.
All right, guys.
Here comes CBS News.
Later, guys.
Later, bro. Oh, damn, Byron, why didn't you get that question in sooner? Are you under oath while filling out the questionnaire? It's a good question. A savvy defense attorney asks Brian if he's ever throat punched anyone in the pharynx. Pharynx? I've never even been to Egypt. I'm pissed my 2 weeks to flatten the curve joke didn't get any run at all. I was feeling good about that. I'll be back. Walgreens coupons and dick punches. That's what you get in commercial around here. Upon a hill across a blue lake. You fuddy dud. My college basketball losing streak is officially over with.
What was the last part you said?
My college basketball losing streak is officially over with. I have righted the ship and am making money cashing tickets again. I went 2 weeks of just betting desert. Right time to hit the get right stick too, because tournaments. Celebrate the SEC tournament with a trio of 15% profit boosts. You got it, Hoss.
Thirds.
You got it. I thought there were 2 games in the SEC today. I guess it's just one. Oh no, SEC's tomorrow. No, that's today. Ole Miss and Missouri's today. Huh. There's Georgia Vanderbilt. All right.
This report brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $120 with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Can't do that one. What time's the first game today? Ooh, crap. Idaho and Sacramento State tips off at 10:30. Sacramento State is a 2-point favorite. Florida State's only given 1.5. Let's take Florida State to win that one. Bing bong. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Jake producing. Got a busy hour this hour. We're going to get to State Representative or House Speaker Pro Tem Tanner Magee at 7:15. Why? Well, we're going to be talking about the Ronald Greene case and the legislature taking up a committee to investigate it. Their first meeting was yesterday. Also this hour, Congressman Garret Graves. We do D.C. Current at 7:35 every single Wednesday. Never a shortage of headlines to cover with the congressman. We'll probably talk a little Russia-Ukraine, probably talk a lot about the price of gas. And, well, a heck of a lot more as the congressman is looking to put the Nutria on a stamp. We'll get into it. Round out the hour with the outside in. We'll start off with top stories and trending, though, right after I ask, you going out to the box tonight? Going to be drier, going to be cool. Perfect early season baseball weather. Maybe a little cold. Either way, if you're tailgating for the game tonight, maybe swing by Mattress in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. It is right across the street from Tiger Stadium. If you're on Nicholson and you see Tiger Stadium, just look in the exact opposite direction. That's where you'll find Mattress. And oh, by the way, I tell you all the time about how they're your tailgating headquarters because they've got a fantastic craft beer selection, got a fantastic overall beer selection, fantastic craft beer selection. You get your snacks, your munchies, and whatnot. But they are also, get this, a full-service grocery store. And yes, they're on campus. No, they're not just for students. This is for everybody who travels up and down Nicholson. And oh, by the way, if you used to do your shopping over there by Winn-Dixie, now that Winn-Dixie on Burbank, now that it's closed down, head back towards campus. Mattress has got you covered. And take it one step further, download the Mattress app. Get your grocery shopping done before you even leave work. Pull in the parking lot. They bring it out to you. Boom. It's simple. There's also another location of Mattress. They're on downtown on 3rd Street, but you already knew about them. So introduce yourself to the Mattress on Nicholson. All right, time for top stories and trending. Let's roll.
Now, top stories and trending. On Talk 107.3 FM, the most trusted name in news. Brought to you by Complete Collision Center, with locations in Zachary and Baton Rouge. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Choose CompleteCollision.com. I want to know absolutely everything that's happened up to now.
Well, like we just talked about, teasing our next segment, a group of bipartisan lawmakers gathered at the state capitol yesterday with one goal in mind, to seek the truth tied to the death of Ronald Greene. Greene died back in May of 2019 after a high-speed chase in the Monroe area. Body camera footage showed he was brutally beaten. The videos were released more than a year and a half after his death. Committee members are keenly interested in the communication that transpired after his death, basically taking a look at the cover-up. House Speaker Pro Tem Tanner Magee, who is on that committee, is going to join us about 7 minutes from right now to talk about it. A home caught fire Tuesday evening after a driver pulled their smoking car next to the house and tried to put the flames out with a water hose. According to the Baton Rouge Fire Department, one person was in the Charles Street home when it caught fire shortly after 6 p.m., was able to make it out safely. The home was not deemed a total loss, but the Red Cross was called to assist the displaced residents. Officers are looking for a thief who stole a woman's credit card and racked up $15,000 worth of charges yesterday. The Baton Rouge Police Department said the thief snagged the credit card from a woman's purse before the spending spree over at the Mall of Louisiana. Our news partners over at WBRZ have the pictures up if you want to give them a look and see if you can help. If you can help, call Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP. Oh, here, well, actually, the top two stories in our top stories and trending are both things we could have gotten into with Franz if we had not dug in so heavily on the jury selection process. City Parish raised a house on Southern Avenue last September. Shouldn't have, and the mistake will cost East Baton Rouge Parish taxpayers nearly $37,000. The Department of Public Works bulldozed a dilapidated house that had been on a demolition list a few months earlier, grabbing this one from Terry Jones at The Advocate, by the way. But the home had been taken off the list, and the property was due for reinspection on the day the building came down. There's a fine. How do you do? Mark Armstrong, spokesman for the mayor's office on Tuesday, could not say how the mistake occurred, but called it a reminder why the city parish must operate with greater due diligence so something like this doesn't happen again. No kidding, Mark. I'm sorry, somebody lost their house. That's not funny. On Wednesday, the Metro Council will consider authorizing a settlement of $36,819 to Gregory Franklin, who owned the house that was on Southern Avenue. Also, a story we could probably dive into in a Legally Served segment, also coming to us from The Advocate, this time from Andrea Gallo. A man who says that a former Baton Rouge and New Orleans priest, the now deceased Reverend John Anthony Weber, sexually abused him in the 1970s and has filed a lawsuit against the Roman Catholic Diocese of Baton Rouge under new laws that open Louisiana's window for victims of child abuse to pursue civil claims. The lawsuit is the first clergy sexual abuse claim that the Diocese of Baton Rouge has faced since releasing a list in 2019 of 46 clergy members who were credibly accused of sexual abuse and worked within the diocese throughout its 6-decade history. Weber was on the credibly accused clergy list for both Baton Rouge and the Archdiocese of New Orleans. The Weber suit is also the first that the diocese has had to face under the new laws that state lawmakers passed last year, which created a 3-year window for all unresolved child molestation cases to be pursued in civil court despite the age of the claims. So, yes, the alleged claims, or the claims allegedly happened in the 70s. Window was reopened in 2019. And the lawsuit has since been filed. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Bessie is asking for a raise. Louisiana's top school board Tuesday approved its funding request to the legislature that mirrors the one offered by Governor John Bel Edwards, a $1,500 pay raise for teachers and a standstill budget for public schools. The request is due to the legislature by March 15th. The day after lawmakers begin the 2022 regular session. The State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education is expected to give final approval to the request today at 9 a.m. The spending plan finances textbooks, school supplies, and other operations for the upcoming school years. Lawmakers can accept or deny the plan, but they can't change it. Those are your top stories in trending. We are due up for a quick break. When we come back, State Representative Tanner Magee joins us next. Debbie, let me write these down so I make sure I get them. Suspend the gas tax. Wait, is that a federal? Doesn't the gas tax... Hey, Clinton says they won't suspend the gas tax because that's what funds infrastructure. Okay, does that make it a state tax? You know what? I'll phrase the question in this regard. What can be done about gas taxes from a congressional level that could hopefully ease the pain? Damn it, I thought I had this set up where it wouldn't play these. I'm replacing all these on Friday, by the way. Mine, Kilmeade, like they're stale. Well, that promo's going to stay in it, but the 30 with Tanner's going. probably going to replace it with a soundbite of me ripping on the Advocate for blaming Clay Higgins for not showing up to a meeting that wasn't in his district that didn't happen anyway. I'm going to go back into yesterday's audio and find that. It sounded good. Oh, what was the other question, Debbie? When will the vote come back up? You got it. Here, can you call Tan? Yeah, do you? .716 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane. It's going to shift the focus now, moving from top stories and trending. Well, I shouldn't say shift the focus because it was number 5 in the top stories. Per WBRZ, a group of bipartisan lawmakers gathered at the state capitol Tuesday with one goal in mind: to seek the truth tied to the death of Ronald Greene. The Ronald Greene case, saga, and cover-up. Our news partners at WBRZ have been all over this. Chris Nakamoto has been all over this one from the start. And now the state legislature is involved. Tanner Magee is on that committee. He joins us now. Tanner, good morning. How are you, man?
Good. How you doing?
Doing very well. All right, so the first meeting, and that's a big emphasis on the first meeting because it sounds like there's going to be a lot of these. The first meeting to find out what happened in the Ronald Greene cover-up was yesterday. Before we get into what actually happened in the meeting, I've got to ask, what's the intent here? Are y'all looking to find out how this scenario played out in the first place with his death, or is this strictly about the cover-up?
Well, I mean, I think the death is now kind of, I don't know if you really need to investigate it. I mean, the body cam footage is available. People who can look at it, they can draw their own conclusions from it. I think it's unnecessary to really get deep involved. But I think we're most interested in what happened after at this point. Particularly, it's sort of a known established fact that you had one trooper lie to investigators about the body cam footage, and then he's undisciplined. You had another trooper write a false police report where he doesn't mention anything about the beating at all. He went undisciplined to this day. And then we know that certain members of higher level state troopers had their cell phones wiped, which is a very curious incident that needs more investigation about why would you do that when you know there's an inquiry into all this stuff. And then one of those is now the number 2 person, the state trooper. So there's a lot of interesting and I think questions surrounding what happened afterwards and what was and why were the reasons that these actions were taking place. And I think that's kind of more the focus of this particular committee.
Okay, there's a lot of mention about the higher ups within the state police. I did not hear you mention the governor yet. Is his name going to be tied into this in committee's investigation?
I think he is the ultimate head of state police in a lot of ways. I think we're going to look at what the communications were between him and his staff and the state police. But I mean, that's not the focus. I mean, we really want to just find the truth. I mean, it's not an issue of it's not a conclusion and we're trying to reach that conclusion. It's literally, let's take it step by step, go through this painstakingly and see where the trail of information leads us.
I think that it kind of answers a bigger question about the legislature's involvement in this. But let me throw the question out for the legislature's involvement. What is it y'all hope to accomplish by finding this truth?
I think the first of all, the truth is the most important part of it, and I think clearly there's some issues here with state police, and I think what happened with Ronald Greene, I think any reasonable person agrees should not happen, and I think trying to find out why it happened and why people have gone unpunished, and there seems to be a systematic problem here. And look, I want to say unequivocally, I think most police officers are great. I have great admiration for all of them. But there's not a single profession that doesn't have bad apples. My profession, probably radio hosts have bad apples.
Almost all of us, Tanner.
Exactly. And I think it's about, how do you prevent the bad actors and how do you identify the bad actors and make sure that they don't cause harm to the general public? I mean, that's how I look at it. And sometimes there's a system in place that doesn't really hold people accountable. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. And now we need to look into it. And wherever that goes, hopefully that will lead to some greater reform or at least enough pressure that changes are made internally.
Talking with Tanner Magee about the Ronald Greene investigation, or the committee to investigate Ronald Greene. So was a full-on witness list put together yesterday? What went down in yesterday's meeting?
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. We identified what people we thought we could answer the questions of what happened in the investigation afterwards, and then what documents. Through the AP's reporting and Chris Nakamoto's reporting, we have a lot of text messages from state police, from the governor's office, but there's some huge gaps. Not everything has been turned over. Colonel Reeves was reported to carry a notepad with him in every meeting that he attended. Nobody's seen that notepad, so we're very curious to see if that can be produced, and we're going to go from there. So we're trying to find the gaps in what we don't know as far as what has not been produced, what has been held back, or what has been claimed to have been deleted.
Did anything happen yesterday that kind of caught you by surprise, like the people that suggested should be questioned that maybe wouldn't have been on your radar? Any announcements or pronouncements made that you wouldn't expect from an introductory meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised how the committee's evenly split. 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and then me as the chairman. Mm-hmm. I was surprised how much everybody was on the same page as far as it was almost like an echo chamber of what everybody was interested in finding. That was surprising to me a little bit. And then I was also surprised at the depth of knowledge that some of my committee members had. I mean, they were going into evidence logs, but one of the also surprising things, too, was Carl Cavalier, who was the whistleblower in all this, and was subsequently terminated for being the whistleblower by state police, showed up at the hearing. We didn't know he was going to be there, and then he came to the table and started adding information and witnesses that he thought needed to be called. So that was very that didn't get really reported in the press, but I thought that was a really interesting development.
Yeah, Carl Cavalier has been not just whistleblowing, but eye-opening from the beginning with this. WBRZ, our news partners over at Channel 2, have been they've had Carl on a couple of times talking about some of the things that he's revealed. Has just been very, very eye-opening. Now, let's talk logistics for just a minute, because the session begins next week. So y'all are supposed to meet once a week. Session gets underway. How does this work, balancing this separate thing while handling all the rest of the business of the state?
Yeah, that's going to be one of the most tricky parts that we have of all this. We have to figure out time to meet. That's kind of, and people who may be less familiar with the process, appropriations and Ways and Means, those committees, especially in the beginning, they have to kind of go through like every agency's document. They have to do everything, and it's very time consuming. So they take up a lot of the committee space is what I'm trying to get at. They would go and kind of go on the floor afterwards, and so it's going to be hard for us to find time when we're not on the floor, or appropriations and Ways and Means are not meeting, to find committee space to have it. So it's going to be kind of done. Hopefully, we can find some time and space in between everything, but it's going to be a little bit of a tricky logistical problem, to be honest.
The next meeting, as I understand it, is slated for March 15th at 11 a.m. I mean, that's you're basically day 2, right?
Yes, that's exactly correct.
It's so after that it will be roughly weekly, and I would imagine as the session wears on, schedules will free up a little bit once things start narrowing down within committee and make their way through the legislative process. Schedules will free up a little bit. Do y'all have a deadline in mind as far as when you'd like to have this entire investigation come to a conclusion?
Well, we would like to have it done at least by the end of the session, but I think it's going to be kind of also based off of what we get back. I mean, if like Colonel Reese comes on Tuesday and just kind of like lays out everything and is completely just as transparent and gives us all the information we wanted, I mean, I think we could get this thing wrapped up in like 3 meetings. But if he's more, pleads the fifth, or I can't answer that, or kind of gives us kind of answers, or we still can't get our hands on information, I think it's going to take us longer. I mean, we're interested in getting the AT&T or whatever cell phone provider they use as records. That may take us some time. So I mean, it's a little bit about how long it takes us to do it. Hopefully, we'll have it all wrapped up by the end of the session, though.
So I guess this will kind of be dependent on what you actually find once you get in there. But what can the legislature actually do as a result of this investigation? I mean, do y'all have the ability to enforce or punish in any way?
I mean, any office holder we could actually impeach. I think a lot of it, though, could also be just drawing out into the public's attention various bad actors and force certain people to be kind of publicly shamed. I hate to say it that way, but that's probably the truth. I mean, it seems to be an effective tool that people don't like to have this stuff kind of hung out there and unaddressed.
Well, so where I'm going with this is the state police kind of falls under the governor's purview, but do y'all have any oversight as to establishing protocols or procedures within them?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why we can't pass bills and legislation that completely revamp state police. I mean, that's completely within our purview.
I'm not expecting you to have looked through all the pre-filed legislation, but I'm guessing somebody's already done something with that?
That's a good question, and I think there's probably some instruments out there that can be used to that effect, but I'm not aware of anybody who has had like a state police reform bill yet. So it might be a 2-cycle kind of thing. By next session, you could come back with legislation.
Gotcha. We got Tanner Magee. He's chairing this committee investigating Ronald Greene's death, or more to the point, the cover-up after Ronald Greene's death. Got about 2 minutes left, Tanner. I got to ask from a personal standpoint, what are you most interested in or who are you most interested in hearing from, and why?
I am very much interested in hearing from the second in command right now, Doug Kane. He had he's one of the upper echelon that had his cell phone wiped, and he somehow, I'm not suggesting he did anything wrong, but he had his cell phone wiped, and now he's been promoted to the second in command of state police. It seems odd to me that somebody has this kind of involvement in something that seems to be agreed upon as a bad event to state police is now number 2 under Colonel Lamar Davis and part of allegedly the reform of state police. So I'm very curious to hear about why his cell phone was scrubbed and all the things that go around that, because it just seems weird to me that most people are like losing their careers. Carl Cavalier, fired, and then Colonel Reeves forced into retirement, but this guy for some reason is now elevated to number 2. I'm not saying he did anything, but I am very interested and very curious to find out exactly what surrounds that.
Next meeting is March 15th, and of course the whole legislative session will be going on as well. Tanner, before I let you go, I had Mark Wright on the other day, and we started talking about a limited constitutional convention. I understand you've already got pre-filed legislation in that regard as well. We're going to have to break this down real soon, man. This has been my soapbox for some time.
Yeah, no, look, I've co-authored the bill in the last couple of years, and then it kind of fell silent. But this is something I think we're kind of tired of just nibbling at the edges. We need to just rip the Band-Aid off and do this for real. Well, we will dive into it as the session wears on. Get yourself some good rest this weekend, because it's game on next week. Thank you. Look forward to talking to you soon. Yes, sir. We'll talk to you very soon. He is Speaker Pro Tem Tanner Magee, heading up the committee on the investigation into the cover-up of Ronald Greene's death. And, there's going to be so much on the plate next week.
the regular legislative session. We don't normally get to see the sausage be made, but I had to ask about the logistics question. I know it sounds on its surface like, it's 24 hours in a day. How many hours are you actually over there? But those first, week or two of the session, as everything's being vetted and debated in committee, that's where all the back end work is getting done, and time is short. Availability for space is short as well. All right, quick break, checking news. When we come back from this break, Congressman Garret Graves joins us next. Denise Marcel wants Mike Edmondson called as one of the witnesses. I'm not sure I understand that. She perhaps was just naming people that she's heard of in connection to the state police. But didn't Mike Edmondson retire in 2016, 2017? Like announced it in 2016 and then actually retired in 2017? I might be completely off on my timeline here. COVID has bleeped up everything timeline-wise. As far as I know, it was never the Berenstain Bears. Like, that's how I might have like a Mike Edmondson Mandela effect. But didn't he retire 2 full years before this incident happened? Condon would know that. I'm going down the hall. I'll be right back. Well, that was no help. Oh, Pete, I can Google it. Bro, I can Google it. Jesus. The day that I know more about a law enforcement topic than Rich is a cold day in hell. Anybody following this Sherry Papini case? I know I'm not. I'm just curious. Mike Edmondson. What was the holdup? .736, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, awaiting the phone call from Congressman Garret Graves, who is slated to join us for D.C. Current. God, a lot we got to catch up with Congressman Graves. Between Russia and Ukraine, price at the pump, funding. The funding bill went through overnight, and he's looking to put the Nutri on a stamp. I mean, between all of that. Sorry, handling a text right now. Give me one quick second. Actually, you know what? While we're waiting on the congressman, let me tell you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. They've got two locations. One is in Mid-City, 4065 Florida Boulevard. The other is in the southeastern portion of the parish, the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Mitch Kimball and his team over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet, they've got basically every type of mattress under the sun. They've got the mattress that's right for you. I had no idea how important a good mattress was to getting a good night's sleep. And we all know that getting a good night's sleep is the most important part of having a productive day. So, not too long ago, it's actually just over a year ago, I went in and saw my boy Mitch, said, "What do you got for me?" He said, "Try this one, try this one, try this one, try this one." I must have laid down on a dozen different mattresses. Found the one that was right for me. Beauty Rest Black Label. Now, that might not be the right one for you. It had just the right amount of firmness for both me and my wife. Had just the right amount of firmness. Now, some folks like the pillow top. Some folks like the memory foam. Some folks like the cooling gel. Mine's got the cooling gel in it. Love that. As we start to get towards the warmer months, that cooling gel becomes that much more important, in spite of the cold front that's on its way. That being said, though, if you try out every mattress Mitch has got, you find the one that's just right for you, you're going to get yourself a good night's sleep. You're going to have more productive days. And Mitch can help, not just with the mattress, but with the prices as well. He wants to make sure you're going home with a great mattress, a new mattress. And, oh, by the way, if you mention you heard about it right here, and this goes for either location, if you mention you heard about it right here, you will get free delivery, and you'll also get a free pillow. 4065 Florida Boulevard, or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2 for the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. All right, we are joined right now, as we are every Wednesday, by Congressman Garret Graves for D.C. Current. Congressman, how are you, sir?
Hey, doing okay, Brian. How about you?
Doing very well this morning. I got to start with the breaking news, basically. We have a government funding bill.
We do. Yeah, in fact, I was a couple of minutes late trying to slide in a quick shower here. Got about 2 hours of sleep. They dropped over 5,000 pages of text on us last night at about 1:30 a.m. So I feel like I'm studying for an exam in college again. Mm-hmm. Just crash course and trying to plow through this thing. A couple of highlights, Brian. One, bad news is that there's no funding in there for our hurricanes, for Hurricane Ida and for those in 2020 hurricanes, Laura, Delta, Zeta. Mm-hmm. Brian, I don't know how in the world you do something like that whenever we're giving billions and billions of dollars in humanitarian aid to Ukraine, all sorts of efforts to Haiti and other countries. I don't know how you do that. And so incredibly frustrated that Speaker Pelosi dropped this huge bill on us, that it fails to include key assistance that we need in Louisiana. And I want to be clear, I am all for aid for those in Ukraine, including military aid, but we've got to take care of our folks at home, and that one is incredibly frustrating. I guess other thing on the good news side, there are a number of priority projects that we've included in the bill try to help out funding for our law enforcement in Baton Rouge, for state police, for helping to improve medical care, funds for cancer diagnosis. I mean, just all kinds of good things in there. We have some assistance in there for farmers, helping to improve some of the yields and crops and trying to bring down costs. There are just a number of things that we've pushed. And, of course, one of the key priorities that we've worked on is managing the water in the Mississippi River to stop all these floods that we've been having year after year, and additional funds for hurricane protection in there as well. So kind of a mixed bag, but just incredibly frustrated with the lack of disaster aid.
So the lack of disaster aid, is that just simply a matter of we're not the crisis du jour anymore?
I think that they were in a situation where you had just Louisiana that was really pushing for this, despite the fact that you had other states that had disasters, whether it be wildfires or flooding or other winter storms. So we were the ones who were really, kind of carry the water on this thing. We put that delegation letter together a few weeks ago, trying to lay out what was needed. We were working on all of the different appropriations folks in the House, trying to get them to include it in there. And I'm still trying to get an after action to figure out if there were Senate problems or where the opposition came in. I've heard some rumors, but I want to track them down before I say anything out loud. But I just think, you've got to beat on the drum. You've got to bring attention to the issue. You've got to communicate to people how dire things are at home in some of these communities. And apparently just got buried in thousands and thousands of other requests. But it's not okay. It's not. So, good news, just going back and remind you, we were able to get a big chunk of money, billions of dollars in disaster aid for 2020 and 21 hurricanes within 1 month of Hurricane Ida. Mm-hmm. So there are those dollars there. I think one of the reasons that we're going to end up having confirmed to us is that those funds hadn't even been allocated yet. The Biden administration has not even allocated the funds to the state, hadn't even told the state of Louisiana how much of those funds they'll be getting for Hurricane Ida. And so it's hard to come in and get additional funds whenever you've got billions of unallocated funds just sitting there right now. And you and I have talked about this in the past. One of the most infuriating things in the world is to know you have money in the bank, know you have people that just have basic needs that aren't being met.
No, 100%. And added to that level of being infuriating is the short attention span theater of the news cycle, combined with the elongated process of getting the job done from start to finish.
No question, no question, and all this is simply re-victimizing people that have already been through, sorry, but just hell. Yeah. And it's not okay. It is not okay. We are America. We can do better than this. And this on top of, Brian, what we've been dealing with in regards to just failed energy policies in the United States, the highest actual number of gasoline, the highest price of gasoline we've seen in American history in terms of just straight up dollars, seeing just completely no energy policy, no energy strategy, going from being dependent upon Russia to now going to Iran and Venezuela, whenever we have over 38 billion barrels of recoverable oil in the United States that have been identified so far, probably even more. It is just inexcusable what's going on right now. Look, I've spoken to people in the past few days, can't even fill their cars to get to work because of the extraordinary price of gas. I've never even seen some of these signs go into the $4 range and $5 range that we're seeing right now. I didn't even know the lights could go that high. I mean, this is just, it is awful. And these are all, Brian, unforced errors that shouldn't be happening. And we have energy in Louisiana. We have people that have been laid off from jobs because they were being blocked from being able to produce additional energy in the United States. I mean, this just couldn't be worse governance.
Let's talk about what Congress can do with those gas prices for just a minute, because there's been a lot of talk about potentially suspending gas taxes. How much of that is in y'all's court, and how much of that is done on a state level, and what can you actually do?
Well, look, there are gas taxes at both state and federal level, but the reality is all that does is cause more problems. We've already seen skyrocketing cost of infrastructure like roads and flood protection. If you go and you suspend these gas, the user fees through the gasoline tax, then all you're doing is you're delaying traffic solutions. Go ask anybody in the capital region if that's okay with them. It's causing problems more than it's really solving anything. What needs to happen? Let me say this again, Brian. This is an unforced error. We have ample energy resources in the United States. The Biden administration has blocked them or preventing us from being able to produce them. And it is entirely a result of inexperienced people in key jobs. Look, folks are out there saying, oh, we can't do this because of climate change in the environment. The truth is, the facts are, we produce it cleaner and safer than anywhere else in the world. If there is going to be a continued demand for oil and gas, we are doing a better job for the global environment by producing it in the United States and, quite frankly, in Louisiana. Why in the world would we go out there and have these other countries that don't care about the environment that go release all these emissions whenever we can do it safer, cleaner, cheaper, in some cases, well, safer and cleaner certainly in the United States, cheaper in some cases. And why would we go and give this to other countries? It doesn't make sense.
The Biden administration is pushing back on this, and I want your clarification on it. Jen Psaki said something the other day about how we're not taking advantage of what's already been approved. Something about 9,000 approved oil leases that oil companies just are ignoring or not using.
This just confirms how clueless they are, and she just needs to stop talking, because when she was talking about Keystone Pipeline, saying other things that are completely untrue, and I don't think she's intentionally lying. I just think she doesn't understand. Here's the fact. The fact is that just because you get a permit doesn't mean you can produce energy. One, maybe that place where you got a permit doesn't actually have oil and gas down there. Maybe it's not recoverable. Maybe there's not a way to actually get a pipeline in because the Biden administration has blocked pipelines. Maybe you haven't gotten roads built or other things because there's supply chain problems, worker shortage problems. Here's probably the best way to summarize it right now, Brian, just to push back on how ignorant that comment was. There are more permitted energy projects that are producing energy today, a higher percentage than ever before. Think about it. We have oil prices at $130 a barrel. If you've got a potential place that you can produce energy and you can get $130 a barrel record price for it, why in the world would you leave it in the ground? It doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't pass the laugh test. So I'll say it again. A higher percentage of permitted energy projects are actually producing energy right now than ever before, which just negates the comment that she made. It demonstrates the lack of understanding, and I don't mean to be mean here, but my gosh, we need people that have experience and understand the industries that they're actually leading, and not just having people in these government jobs that are completely doing on-the-job training or no knowledge whatsoever on what it is that they're trying to govern.
All right, I got to end on something a little bit lighter, possibly lighter. You're trying to put a nutria on a stamp?
How about that? I mean, look, you can't think of anything more beautiful than a nutria on a stamp, right? So
big old urge teeth.
There was an effort by some folks here working to do a postage stamp to raise money for fighting invasive species. We looked at that and said, my gosh, zebra mussels, nutria, other problems that we've got in Louisiana. This is an opportunity for us to add to the multiple funding streams that we've been able to secure in recent years to help to fight some of these invasive pests that are causing problems across the state. So yes, worked with a whole bunch of other members of Congress who have other invasive species issues, but I think a nutria stamp would be great. But seriously, the most important thing is just getting additional resources to help to fight some of these challenges that we've got in Louisiana.
Will you go with a real nutria picture, or we're going to go like Boudreaux from the old Zephyrs mascot? I mean, these are the tough decisions, Congressman.
It's too early to tell, but I'd urge you to start sketching and taking some photos, and we'll submit them for you.
We'll do a whole reality show to find a nutria model. He is Congressman Garret Graves, joins us every single week. Congressman, I'm going to drop you on hold. I've got to talk to you off air for just a second.
Great. Thanks, Franz.
Excellent. We are due up for a break. We actually blew right past your money now. So let's take a break. We're going to check traffic. Coming back, we'll step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish for the Outside In next. Kill my mic, please. .755 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. You know, I should have saved that spot for Baton Rouge Mattress. Because if you're Congressman Garret Graves and you're handed 5,000 pages of a spending bill at 1:30 a.m. and you're only getting 1.5 hours sleep, you got to make sure it's on a good mattress from the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. See, that would have tied in nicely. My appreciation to Congressman Graves for hopping on board. I mean, for even being conscious right now, for that matter. My word, 5,000 pages at 1:30 a.m. Dig in. Do they still make no-dos? Is that still a thing? All right, we're going to hit CBS News at the top of the hour, get the latest on the gas prices, get the latest on Ukraine and everything else. Right now, though, every single day at this time, we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish for a segment we call The Outside In. Starting off at Ascension Parish, law enforcement officers have arrested 3 people and are still looking for 4 more after a fight broke out Monday in the checkout line at the Walmart on Airline Highway. Sources told our news partners at WBRZ most of the women involved in the brawl are juveniles. Some are Walmart employees. Unknown right now who started the fight. More details as the story unfolds. So the Italian owners of a Switzerland-based helicopter company have backed out of plans to build a new model in South Louisiana, and the state is looking for a new tenant. This is coming to us out of Lafayette, Louisiana. Leonardo Spa is buying out Copter Group AG's lease in Lafayette and now plans to build their single-engine helicopters in Philadelphia, where Leonardo Helicopters US is based. Leonardo bought Copter in 2020, the year after the company based in Switzerland announced its plans to use a manufacturing plant in Lafayette. The facility was built by Bell Helicopters. Louisiana leaders said Bell failed to meet hiring goals. They ended the agreement in 2019. So this was supposed to fill that gap. The Lafayette Economic Development Authority and state have been marketing the facility to potential clients. The agency was planning to continue doing so at a trade show this week in Dallas. Termination documents filed in late September show Leonardo was to pay $760,000 owed on the lease and $15,672 for repairs. Over in Tangipahoa Parish, the Hammond Downtown Development District is a semifinalist for the 2022 Great American Main Street Award. Main Street America selected 8 semifinalists based on their innovative use of the Main Street approach. The Great American Main Street Award is the highest honor in the field of commercial district management. Hammond going up against 7 other semifinalists, none of which are in Louisiana, by the way. Selection criteria for the Great American Main Street Award include strength in spurring community transformation, commitment to historic preservation, innovative programming, implementation of partnerships, community outreach, stakeholder engagement, and commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's close out in Livingston Parish. School officials are reviewing safety procedures after a kindergartner who swallowed hand sanitizer reportedly ended up in the emergency room. The Livingston Parish School System told our news partners at WBRZ Tuesday it was in contact with the student's parents. A spokesperson did not name the school involved, but confirmed they were reassessing in-class safety protocols. The boy's parents said a teacher and other children were present when it happened. After that, they say the school called them to pick up their son because he was disoriented and unable to walk. In a social media post, the child's mother said they spent hours in the ER, but her son did not appear to have permanent damage. That's the outside in. I mean, remember when kids just ate paste? Hand sanitizer. That's the outside in. Let's take a quick break. We're going to check CBS News. Coming back on the other side for Hour 3 next.
Protect your retirement. Visit SafeMoneyPlan.net. It's 8 o'clock.
WBRB, Baker, Baton Rouge, 98.1 HD3, Talk 107.3 FM.
I don't know who this person is. Still don't know who this person is. No clue. No clue. Block. Talk about my family. Shut up. Do you really rely on the Postal Service every single day? The tens of millions of Americans who rely on the Postal Service every single day. Oh. Oh. No press club on March 14th. What the hey? No, I don't think so.
This report brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $120 with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
As rain really struggles to come together over the area, today is going to trend drier than previously forecast. Areas south and east of Baton Rouge may see some spotty shower activity today. Otherwise, today will be a mere repeat of yesterday. Skies will be mostly cloudy with temperatures maxing out in the mid-60s.
7:06, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Morning, everybody. Brian here with you. It's Mornings with Brian Haldane, and we are into hour number 3. Hope you're off to a great morning this morning. You heard the forecast right there. Going to be a little bit cooler over the next few days. Kind of that last bout of winter before we really crank into spring and then summertime. Just a few months away from the beginning of hurricane season, and we just heard from Congressman Garret Graves last hour about how there's a new $5,000 spending plan that does not include more hurricane relief. Awesome. We got a lot of ground to cover this hour. The Comey Diversion Canal, Comey River Diversion. It's a 12-mile long diversion canal that will divert water from the Comey River over to the Mississippi River during seasons of high flooding. Back in 2016, over 120,000 homes flooded in our area. A lot of this, some of that could have been averted with the Comey Diversion Canal. There is movement in the upcoming legislative session, hopefully. This isn't about the upcoming session. This is about a previous session. State Representative Valerie Hodges has got some stuff going on with the advancement of the canal. When the task force was first created that wants to identify and remove impediments getting the flood control structure project actually built, it's a project that's been in the work for decades now, and we're just not seeing it. It's just not there. So we're going to speak with Valerie Hodges in our next segment about Comey. Also this hour, Dr. John Faust. Who's Dr. John Faust? He's a pediatric orthopedic surgeon over at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital. Yeah, I know it's not Monday, so we're not doing a Medical Monday segment today, but this is pretty crazy. He was the first one in the state to perform a new spinal surgery called the APIFIX, and I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. APIFIX, APIFIX, which treats adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. That's all coming your way this hour. Before we get to any of that, though, I need to remind you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. 2 locations, one up on Plank Road in Zachary, the other on Perkins, just east of Bluebonnet. More important than where the locations are, because, you're going to get towed to them likely if you need to go there. More than important than where the locations are is where you're going to find them online. That's CompleteCollision.com. CompleteCollision.com. Now, why would I send you to the internet to learn more about a body shop? Because they've got a little thing over at the Complete Collision Center known as the iCar Gold Class certification. This puts them in the top 15% of body shops nationwide. What goes into the iCar Gold Class certification? Well, for me to explain it in a sentence or two, they know a little bit more about how to find and repair hidden damage. They know a lot more about the difference between repair and replace. Learn more at CompleteCollision.com. If you're ever in an accident, you're in charge of where your car goes. Not your insurance company, not the random tow truck driver who just showed up. You are. So choose Complete Collision Center, 768-9898. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Choose Complete Collision Center. Time for this day in history. What you got, Jake? Oh, snap.
Yes, it is time for this day in history. We are kicking things off in 1497. Nicolaus Copernicus first recorded astronomical observation. Those are a lot of big words.
Well, some of them were his name.
Yes,
Yeah.
big words indeed.
Yeah.
1522.
And you could just call him Nicky C.
Nicky C.
Nicky C. That
First
sounds so much
recorded
cooler than
astronomical observation.
Nicholas Copernicus.
Yeah, Nicky C was doing big things back in the 15th century.
Very, very big in the planetary world.
Yes, indeed. Some would say astronomical.
Oh, wow.
1522.
Should we just go home?
Should I go home?
I mean,
do you want me to go home?
I don't know.
1522.
Should you leave or take a bow? That's how bad that pun was.
You know, I'll do both later.
Yeah, later. Thank you.
1522, Martin Luther begins preaching his Invocavit sermons in the German city of Wittenberg, reminding citizens to trust God's word rather than violence, and thus helping bring to a close the revolutionary stage of the Reformation.
Yes!
1562, kissing in public was banned in Naples, and it was punishable by death.
Really?
Yeah, they did not like PDA. Back
I'm
then.
not. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Like, I'm not a fan of the PDA.
Yeah, but like, would you kill somebody for it?
Depends on the level of PDA.
Does it really depend?
I mean,
yeah, arm around the other. That's one thing.
that's fine. Well,
Kissing.
peck on the cheek is fine.
Whoa!
Like
Kissing in
making
public,
out in the
though.
middle of the mall.
That's a little odd, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, burned at the stake, hanging. You know, the
Where
works.
is what? Where plays into this as well? The mall, it's kind of excusable. You know, a lot of teenagers. You
It's
know,
like a little
puppy love.
Batesy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, if you're like at the post office
or you're like at the
grocery store,
you know, romantic places like that.
ugh, yeah, I don't. Yeah, we don't need that.
Trying to get your driver's license renewed?
Yeah, no.
Probably not there either. But in 1908, Italian football club Inter Milan was founded as Football Club Internazionale. It's a very historic club.
Okay.
1959, Barbie makes her debut as the American Toy Fair in New York.
Yeah.
Over 1 billion have been sold worldwide since.
So yesterday was Women's Day, wasn't it, or the day before?
It was yesterday.
All right, and then Barbie comes out the next day. That seems
correct.
ill-timed.
1964, the first Ford Mustang was produced.
Cool.
10 years later, 1974, the last Japanese soldier, a guerrilla operating in the Philippines, surrenders 29 years after World War II ended.
Yeah,
They were
that's
loyal.
crazy.
It is quite insane. 1998, Dr. Dre's Aftermath Entertainment signs the then unknown rapper Eminem.
Cool.
Killing the game back in the day. That's all the events I have.
Oh,
What am I missing?
the Battle of the Monitor and Merrimack in the middle of the Civil War, 1862. This day in 1862,
What
the
happened?
Monitor squared off against the Merrimack.
Very nice.
Very classic naval battle.
Well, that's all the events. Let's get
I think it
to
was actually called the Battle of Hampton Roads.
that one. Okay, that rings a bell. Let's get to the birthdays. Bow Wow.
Yeah, I
turns
had that one.
35. Oscar Isaac is 43.
Wait a second.
What?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, sorry. Good.
Clint Dempsey, Captain America himself.
Wait, Oscar Isaac just
39.
hosted Saturday Night Live last week.
Did he really?
Yeah.
How'd he do?
Decent. Not great. They're in a weird funk right now. They've
Was
got
it
a
the
really,
sketches or was it the acting?
It was a little bit of the acting. You could tell he was out of his element. Not a comedy guy.
He's a funny guy, though, in the press tours. It's kind of interesting. Clint Dempsey, U.S. men's national team legend for soccer, that is. He turns 39. Current Pittsburgh Steelers running back Najee Harris turns 24. That's all the birthdays I have, actually.
That's it?
It's kind of a slow day for birthdays.
Bro, no, not at all.
What do you mean?
Well, you're missing out on a number of athletes.
Let's hear
First
'em.
of all, I know you had your little soccer guy. You did not have former A shortstop Bert Campaneris born on this day in 1942. How about former Vikings quarterback and ESPN analyst, and regular on the on AFR, Sean Salisbury,
Wow.
born on this day in 1963.
you go.
The Boz, Brian Bosworth, this day in 1965. We had, Mike Leach, Mississippi State head football coach Mike Leach, born on this day in 1961. Famous for nothing other than being, famous for the OJ trial. Cato Kalin was born today, and chess player Bobby Fischer,
There you have it.
also born today. Oh, wait, well, one more. LSU tie here, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf.
Nice. Happy birthday to all those mentioned. Only one death to talk about. Some call him Notorious. Others call him Biggie Smalls. Notorious Big died on this day in 1997.
Yeah, but did he?
Did he?
Did he? Did he?
P. Diddy.
That's not what I meant. That's worse than your other pun.
Yeah.
Did he?
Did he?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Chilling with Tupac somewhere. Also, George Burns died on this day.
Oh.
Not this day, like 96, I think it was.
Ah.
In 96. He was 100.
Rest in peace to both of them mentioned. Holidays. It is National No Smoking Day. It is National Get Over It Day.
I like that one.
And finally, National Barbie Day.
It's also National Meatball Day.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah.
You gonna celebrate?
I mean, we got, 10 days away from the Feast of St. Joseph's? So I might hold off for a week and a half.
Fair enough. Well, that is this day in history.
All right, we're talking Comeet River diversion with State Representative Valerie Hodges next. Hey, Dilwad's in. What's happening, Naquilus? No kidding. Dr. Faust got my daughter's hip dysplasia fixed. That's awesome.
Wondering if it's time to build your dream home? What about renovating your current home? GMFS Mortgage offers flexible construction home loans that include a one-time close construction loan and a renovation loan with low down payment options. Our loans are backed by one of the best construction teams in Louisiana. Contact me, April Curtis, today at gmfsmortgage.com/april.curtis.
Oh, say, can you see the best tacos in Baton Rouge? Government tacos. You see, famed Food Network star and founding father Jay Ducote had a vision to bring together fun and clever spins on political lingo in a way that makes everyone happy. With
Can you make sure that's Valerie?
indoor and outdoor dining, carry out and catering created in order to form a more perfect
Gatorworks believes that your website should be the perfect full-time salesperson, one that always looks sharp, never says the wrong thing, and is always available. If your website isn't creating more leads for your business, what is it doing? Visit
Hey, Rich. Mahmoud Abdul Rauf's birthday today. Mahmoud? Chris Jackson. Okay. I figured you had it. I figured. Yes. No.
Whatever you do, and I'll tell you when
I'm-
it's time.
oh.
It's beyond imagination.
Really?
Been to Anguilla, been to Aruba, been to Cancun, been to Jamaica.
Yeah.
Not even close. For many reasons. It's incredible, babe. I'm telling you.
Good to know. Expensive?
It all depends where you stay.
I sleep on the beach.
We'll talk. But
Okay.
You got to do it. You and Christy have to do it.
Okay. She good? Okay.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter. This report brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $120 with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone tires. Visit Shawbills.
They're taking Biden to the hospital. Who's taking Biden to the hospital? Oh, can't stop. Okay. You know what? I'll go down the hall and tell him during the next break. That's funny. I didn't read your next post yet. 819 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So, the Comeet River Diversion Canal. It is a thing of lore. It is a thing of legend. It's darn near an urban legend at this point. Been in the works for decades. Where are we with it? Joining us now to talk about this, State Representative Valerie Hodges. Representative Hodges, good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you, Brian?
Doing very well. The Comeet River Diversion Canal, we're at a point now where folks are just, they've kind of given up on the thought that this is going to come to reality, but dirt's being pushed around. We're actually getting somewhere, but there's still holdups. Where are we right now in the process, and where are we headed?
Okay, well, where we are right now, there has been a lot of progress, Brian. I'm really excited about it. They're digging the canal, actually digging the canal. They are building the bridge over Highway 64. And one of the bumps in the road that we had was the Florida gas pipeline. You know, I've said for several years, that's the biggest project to this, is relocating all of those gas pipelines, energy, and the Florida gas railroad tracks and all that kind of stuff. But all of that has been taken care of. And so we're going to have a task force meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning at the state capitol. And DOTD, the Corps of Engineers, the Colonel will be there, and they're going. Florida Gas is going to be there to give us an update about that. And, you know, I know the feeling like it's an urban legend because in 2014, when I started pushing this project, I was laughed at and mocked by fellow legislators saying, you're crazy if you think this is ever going to get done.
Yeah.
But by forming this task force, we cleared that logjam. And this is the number one concern of my constituents, Brian, without fail. When I do surveys and ask people, what is your biggest concern? And it's flooding, and especially after the 2016 flood that we had. So it's the number one worry that we have, but it is being addressed, and I'm so excited to be on your show to tell people that this is actually going to come to fruition. If you drive up there, you can see where they're digging. Florida Gas is going to announce tomorrow a new timeline. The projected completion date was going to be December of 2022, this year, obviously. Mm-hmm. But because we hit the bump in the road with with Florida Gas, that has been delayed some. But they're going to announce tomorrow, when the completion date will be. And as you know, this project is going to save about 100,000 homes. And so we are just pushing. A lot of people think, it's been on the back burner, but it's not. I've been working with DOTD, the Corps of Engineers, and Congressman Graves has been working on this. Every week we have meetings about this. And so it's going to save the homes. Those three things I wanted to tell your listeners. This is going to happen, and it's going to happen probably, I'm hoping, within a year. It'll be complete. But there is the fact that it's going to save about 100,000 homes. And one of the most important things, I think, besides saving your home, obviously, is it's your biggest asset that you have, and your home is your castle. And that's what the project was formulated to do and is going to do. But the other thing is flood insurance premiums. I don't know if people know this, but flood insurance is about to skyrocket.
Yes.
But the commute diversion is going to drastically affect the cost of flood insurance, and in many cases, it's going to eliminate the need for flood insurance. So whenever, I think FEMA is already working, they'll make an announcement tomorrow. We'll find out about all this. FEMA's redrawing the floodplain maps because the plan, the CEA said when the project was halfway funded, which now it's fully funded, that they'll start redrawing those maps. So tomorrow we'll get an update from the Florida Gas and Pipeline. We'll get an update on the 61 bridges, Highway 964 bridge, and a lot of people are concerned. Wherever I go, people talk about the clearing and snagging of the Comeet and Amite River. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow as well. When we had the flood in 2016, people don't realize, like my lawnmower got washed away in barbecue pits. Well, where did all that stuff go? It's in the bottom. Everybody's stuff is in the bottom of the river. And so that slows down, the flow. So we've got EBR coming. They're going to talk to us about, they've got the money to do the snagging and get that stuff out of the river. So I'm just looking forward to the meeting tomorrow. I think it's going to be a lot of information. We are pushing this. These things are actually being done. I'm tired of bureaucracy and talking and studies, and you know that. All of us said we study stuff to death.
Oh, yeah.
But we are actually getting this project done, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, from a lot of folks think that this really got ramped up within this millennium, but no, this dates all the way back to 1983.
Right.
So yeah, we're talking about a project that's been around for. Well, I mean, I was only born in '76, so I'm only 7 years older than this idea. The meeting tomorrow, are we going to learn about any other bumps in the road? I mean, Florida Gas and Pipeline has been a big one. Is there a way to project or foresee what else could be the next bump in the road, the next impediment for progress?
Well, I believe we know that the railroad, moving the railroads was a big deal. With the bridges that had to be built over all the railroads and over where the canal is actually going. So, before the big problem was mitigation, and that's where the project stalled years ago, Brian. That's what in 2014 when I started looking into this, because I kept saying, it's not a matter of if we have another catastrophic flood like 83, it's when, with the erratic weather patterns that we were seeing. So that's why I started pushing this, and I said, let's have a task force oversight committee and find out what happened. Why did this project just stall? And so that's what we discovered. It was a mitigation land, so we took care of all of that. We cleared the log jams, got all of the mitigation land bought, and cleared, there were some things, legalities that had to be taken care of. But I don't foresee anything else. I mean, these were the two biggest, and we knew these were going to be two big impediments, was getting those contracts signed and who was going to pay to relocate. When you start talking about relocating major gas lines that supply other states and other parts of the United States, then you're talking about a lot of money, a very lengthy project. But I believe this is our last hurdle. We're going to find out tomorrow, and I'm going to ask that question: what other bumps in the road do we foresee? But I really don't see anything. I believe the biggest after we get this done will be the weather. Weather permitting, they're going to give us a firm date on it, a timeline. And I'm proud of the people that are working with the Corps and DOTD. They have made this a priority, and we've held their feet to the fire, and they're doing it. So I'm hoping there won't be any other bumps in the road, but we'll find out tomorrow.
Let's talk insurance rates for just a minute, because that is a very, very important factor here. I mean, well, first and foremost, reducing flooding by 7 feet in Zachary, 5 feet in Central, and 3 feet in Watson and a foot in Denham as well is pretty important. When 120,000 homes flooded in 2016, being able to knock 100,000 of those out is pretty important. But when it comes to everybody in the area, well, I mean, will people be taken out of flood zones altogether?
Yes, in some cases they will, because the Comeet diversion canal changes that drastically. And so we won't know exactly until they get it done, and hopefully we'll get an update tomorrow about that. But it is going to absolutely eliminate the need for flood insurance in some cases. Some people only got 2 inches of water. Some people got 3 inches of water. And they weren't even in, my best friend got 2 inches. She's not even in a flood zone. And so what the canal is going to do, it will eliminate the threat of that in the future. So we'll see. That's going to, but definitely reduce the rates for sure, and eliminate in some cases. I can't tell you exactly where yet, but we should know soon.
There's going to have to be, I'm sure there will be some timeline lag on those rates dropping, though. I mean, just the waiting on FEMA will be its own thing. So outside of any other possible snafus, we're just looking at weather. How much are we looking at as far as more digging, more construction that has to be done? What kind of, I don't want to say square footage, but mileage, how much dirt still has to be moved?
Well, it's a 12-mile long canal, a channel that has to be built from the Comeet River over to the Mississippi River. And they are actually digging on that right now. I can't tell you footage, but I know that was one of the requests of our legislative task force and oversight that we had, was like, don't do one step at the time. Start digging while you're building the bridge and while you're negotiating these other contracts, and work on it all simultaneously, and they are. So I think that's a very good sign that they are serious about getting this project complete, and it's going to happen soon. It's not a pipe dream anymore. It's reality.
Meetings at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. A lot of people are going to be interested in this. I can't imagine folks would attend in person, though. This will be on the legislature's website if they want to watch, correct? It will.
And also, Brian, I'm having a town hall meeting tomorrow night at Magee Baptist Church at 6 o'clock to give updates. Congressman Graves is supposed to be there, and Kyle Ardwan is supposed to be there to talk about voting integrity. And if you can't make the meeting in the morning or watch it, and you want to come get updates at the town hall meeting at 6 tomorrow night, that would be great too.
Amite Baptist Church, 6 p.m. tomorrow night for the town hall meeting. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for the task force meeting. If you wanted to watch it on the state legislature's website, they'll be in the state capitol in HCR 6, so that'll be properly labeled on the legislature's website. Correct. In the meanwhile, I mean, it is good news, and yes, dirt is being pushed around. Waiting on that final completion date, though. She is Valerie Hodges. Thank you so much for hopping on board today.
Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate you having me on and informing your listeners.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. And it is welcome news, to say the least. Wonder what they're doing with the dirt. That's a lot of dirt to remove, right? 12 miles? 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'll have audio from the meeting on this show on Friday morning, obviously. Oh, and talking insurance rates, we're going to have some from Insurance Commissioner Jim Donnellan tomorrow. He is in full recruitment mode trying to bring new business to town. All right, we got to take a break. We got news coming up in about 15 seconds. After news, let's talk about a new procedure, the APFix procedure. New to the state, at least. The first operation was done within the state. Dr. John Faust is slated to join us right after we check news. We'll start with CBS. We'll get the latest on Ukraine and Russia, get the latest on gas prices, and we'll check our local news, traffic, and coming back after this on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk. Didn't funding for the Comey diversion project pass in the early 80s? The project began in 1983. Not all of the funding. I'm reading up the history. I got a bunch of notes. I don't think all. No. No, I'm not seeing it here. Ooh. A new spinal surgery that treats adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. What the shit? Just that. Aquila says, I'm moving to Central when this is done. Want to be Gordy's neighbor? I asked what they do with the dirt. I got 3 different texts from 3 different people saying 3 different things. None of the 3 said Barrier Island. Haul all the dirt down the Gulf and let's just build another island for pelicans to breed on. That's cool. That's a waste. I want the Barrier Island, man. Ooh, snap. Sorry, y'all. I gotta stop yawning. 8:37, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Couple segments to go here on Mornings with Brian Haldane. Before we are joined by our next guest, I do need to give you that forecast real quick. It is going to be colder for a couple days. Actually, today's high is 64, tomorrow's high is 76, Friday's high is 73, right? After that, Saturday we top out at just 51. Yeah, we're going to see more rain on Friday. It's going to be nice and cool today and tomorrow. Tomorrow's high gets up there. But Friday night, it's going to rain again. And then over the weekend, Saturday's high 51, Saturday night's low, heading into Sunday morning, 27. We'll top out at 62 on Sunday, and then back to the warming trend after that. In fact, we should be up in the 80s by midweek next week. Right now, we're at 47 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. So, remember back to grade school? Remember the scoliosis test? Adolescent idiopathic scoliosis, the most common type of scoliosis out there. There's a new procedure to remedy that. The first time this procedure was performed in the state was February 22nd of this year. The man who performed that procedure was Dr. John Faust, and he joins us right now. Dr. Faust, good morning. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you for hopping on here. Welcome to Talk 107.3. So let's dive into this. This is a new spinal surgery. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Apifix?
That's how I say it. I think they say apifix, but anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll roll with Apifix since you and I recognize that there's only one P. Two P's would make it Apif, but that's neither here nor there. I think you have it right, and I'll follow your lead. So this treats adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. How did this end up on your plate?
Well, usually pediatricians catch it, screening healthy children in their office. The state of Louisiana does not currently require scoliosis screening in schools, which maybe it should, but usually pediatricians should be, every time they see a kid in the office, they should ask the child to bend forward so they can look at their back. And if they see an asymmetry, a rotational prominence of the ribs or the back muscles, then that prompts a concern for scoliosis. That usually leads to x-rays, and then that's when they get referred to me. And then if that curve is small, we just watch it. If it's big and the kids are, well, if it's moderately big and the kids are growing, we treat it with a brace, which is very effective. But sometimes, despite that, the curve gets bigger anyway, and then that's when we start talking about surgery.
Now, with this procedure, with this surgery, what goes into this here?
The traditional surgery that's been done since the 1960s is a posterior fusion, meaning an incision on the back, go down to the bone, put a rod and screws in, and use the rods and screws to straighten the spine as much as possible. But then you remove the joints between the bones, the vertebral bodies, and you put in bone graft, and you get it to fuse, so it's all one connected bone now. Well, then the spine deformity isn't going to get any worse. The scoliosis can't get any bigger. But the spine's not going to move either.
Right.
So what's different about this surgery is that you're not fusing the spine. You're leaving the motion between that part of the spine, but you're still correcting it. So overall, it's a much smaller surgery. Our typical fusion procedure is, in the neighborhood of 6 to even 8 hours. This is the first time that we've ever done it, and it took less than 2 hours. And then, of course, the recovery is a lot easier for that. Typically, with a fusion, you would be in the hospital 2 to 3 days, out of school for at least a month, and then, depending on the sport we're talking about, you'd be out of sports for 3 to 6 months. But with this procedure, it's 1, maybe 2 nights in the hospital. I just saw the patient back yesterday. She's 2 weeks out from surgery. She wants to go back to school. Says she feels great.
Wow.
And if everything's going as planned, we'll have her back doing sports about a month from now. So 6 weeks as opposed to up to 6 months.
So there's a lot to unpack from this. The first of which, with the fusion procedure, how does that work as the child grows? I mean, scoliosis is normally in late childhood or adolescence. As the child grows, how does it just sounds painful
exactly
to live
right.
with.
So thankfully, scoliosis usually doesn't cause debilitating pain. Even very severe curves. Like one of the biggest curves that we operated on last year was just shy of 100 degrees. She had no pain, but it was a very obvious deformity of her ribs and everything. So thankfully, kids aren't in pain. But you're exactly correct. The big worry is that when kids are really young and still growing, you cannot fuse them. We've had surgeries and options like casting in place for, at least since the 1980s, thankfully. Yeah. So we have different ways of treating that. For example, so the rod that we did, this Apifix rod, it lengthens itself. It has a little ratchet mechanism inside, and it gets longer as she continues to grow. There's another version that's been out since about 2014. It actually has magnets on the inside, and you put this device on their back when they come to clinic, and it uses a magnetic field to lengthen the rod inside the body. So we've been doing that for a while for really young kids who are, under age 10. Mm-hmm. But this is unique in the sense that it's specifically designed for these older teenage kids where, for various reasons, the magnet rod surgery wasn't really the right surgery. But this device, because it lengthens itself and because of the way we do it, is more designed towards the teenagers. So it's kids who have some growth remaining, but not too much. Because you're exactly right. If you fuse the spine in an 8-year-old, you're going to make their chest small for the rest of their life, and then they may have problems as an adult.
Yeah, that just, and as painful as it sounds, the growth with it sounds even more painful. Doc, does the rod come back out again, or is this something that's going to stay with them to, I don't know if scoliosis returns after it's been corrected or not, but does the rod stay with them?
Either or. This particular device, the Apifix, has been around since, in the world, 2012. In the United States, it's only been approved since 2019. So some of the patients who've had this in for 10 years have had it removed, and a lot of those curves have stayed stable. Some have returned, but a lot of patients are still living with the rod in. So the basic approach right now is wait and see. If there's no reason to remove the rod, it would stay in for life. There is some expectation that over 50 years, there may be some problem with the rod. Anything that moves is eventually going to break. But the goal of this surgery is finding the right curve that is going to be stable so that if the rod is removed, the curve doesn't change. And that's, kind of the holy grail that we're looking for, is to control these curves without fusing them and making them stable so that then later on patients can, have a stable spine and a reasonable curve, but all the motion for the rest of their lives.
We are talking with Dr. John Faust about the Apifix procedure, which treats adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. Doc, you weren't alone on this one. You collaborated with a few other docs. Who was on your team, and how did that collaboration work out?
Yeah, so I work at Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic and Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital, and my partners are Dr. Brad Collada here in Baton Rouge, and then Dr. Ryan Farmer works with us, but in Lafayette. So we always collaborate together on all of the spine surgeries that we do. The surgeries that happen here in Baton Rouge, it's usually Dr. Collada and myself. Occasionally, really just once, we've had a patient from Lafayette come here, but, we assist Dr. Farmer when needed. Because this was kind of new and different, he came out to see how it works. But it's very helpful having a two-surgeon team for these scoliosis surgeries because it's probably the highest stake surgery that we do. During the whole surgery, we have them hooked up to neuromonitoring so that we can see what's happening with their spinal cord because, it's incredibly rare, but, we have to be careful that we don't paralyze anyone with these surgeries. So that's why it's really a two-surgeon surgery every time.
Dr. Collada's great. He got my daughter fixed up when she broke her arm. He did a wonderful job. The whole team at Brock is awesome. And Our Lady of the Lake, obviously out in front. Our Lady of the Lake Children's Health, obviously out in front on this. I got to ask you from a personal standpoint, what's the feeling like going in on something that hasn't been done in the state before with very, very little nationwide or worldwide to lean on? Your first time doing anything, there's got to be a little bit of apprehension. How did that feel performing this?
Well, thankfully the the skill set for this procedure is just builds off of things we're already doing. In terms of putting in the screws and things, it's the same thing we do every time. That's very routine for us. The way the device itself functions is just a little bit different. So maybe an example, if you buy furniture from IKEA and you put it together yourself, it's all pretty similar. And then if you buy a build-it-yourself piece of furniture from Target, it may not be exactly the way IKEA does it, but, you know, you've done it before, you can figure it out. It's not that bad. So, but, you know, I spoke to a few mentors from around the country who'd performed the procedure in preparation for it. They gave me some tips that were very helpful. The company that makes the device flew down an expert who was there during the surgery to kind of talk our surgical team that's getting everything ready while we're doing the operation. So the scrub technicians, they're kind of prepping the scrub technicians as they go along. We actually had a big team meeting the day before, and we kind of did a dry rehearsal and went through everything as a team. So we take a lot of time in preparation for it. So on the day of, it was actually, pretty it was pretty fun and not so stressful.
To go from I don't want to paralyze the patient to it's like building IKEA furniture. That's a spectrum right there. That's a range right there, Doc. Got Dr. John Faust. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say everything is kind of risk and or probability and consequence. So, you know, the consequences are high, but the overall, probability is low.
How common is this going to be around here, and do you have your next patient already lined up, ready to go? Like, how common is scoliosis? How many people would be eligible for this? What's the level of frequency we're going to be looking at to perform this procedure?
Sure. Well, in the general population, scoliosis is probably 1 to 5% of children, but the number of kids that actually get to surgery is much lower than that. A lot of curves don't ever progress and even need a brace. And a brace, when worn properly, works 93% of the time. So most people are never going to have to worry about surgery. Of the people that need surgery, though, I don't have a number for you, but it's a very selective group that works for this surgery. I've known about it since 2018, and I've seen a few people that would have been candidates and weren't necessarily interested, but this patient was really the first perfect one. I've had this discussion about this surgery with a few people, but, the nice thing about scoliosis is it's kind of a big deal, but it's never an emergency. So people have a lot of time to plan for it. So we don't have another one of these surgeries scheduled just yet, but I'm sure we'll be performing it a few more times over the summer because that's the most common time. Families don't really want to do a big surgery like this in the middle of the school year usually.
No, absolutely not, especially when recovery time is now to a point where they can do it over the summer and be back in time for school as opposed to the old way where you were going to miss some school either way. I mean, this is such a game changer. Such great information, such great news. Dr. John Faust, pediatric orthopedic surgeon over at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital. Thank you so much for the time this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. He's also at the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. I mean, first time in the state. That's pretty darn cool. And he's just the most recent check-in. Surgery was 2 weeks ago. She's already ready to start playing sports again. All right, quick break. Coming right back. I'd have skipped this damn spot if I knew it was a spot. I'd have just yapped for another 60 seconds. I got like 4 different stories to cover in this last segment. Yeah. So every once in a while, I'll just run out of topics for the last segment. I'll feel like I've got something going, and then it's not happening. And then other days, I will have more than I could possibly get to. Today is one of those days. Gross. "30 years of Disneyland Paris." Uh-huh.
Talks about like the various histories of theme parks around the world
Mm-hmm.
and America specifically. Dude, Disneyland Paris was a fucking fiasco. Like it failed tremendously.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Well, it was called Euro Disney for the longest time.
Yeah, exactly. And like nobody in Paris wanted it, and then they built it.
40 miles out in the country. No one was going to go there.
Well, they had to build it out there because they would not allow it within the city. So you're looking at a catch-22. Okay, Amber, I hope you got to hear the answer. I don't know if you heard the whole interview there. Can scoliosis come back even after surgery? So his answer to the question of does the rod come back out was why bother right now? There's no problem with leaving it in. So I believe he said that it's not likely to come back, but do you really want to undergo another surgery to remove it? Although at some point, maybe 50 years down the road, you might have to have another surgery to remove it. But he seemed to be of the opinion that the scoliosis isn't necessarily going to return, but if you are no harm, no foul, leaving it there, basically. I like when doctors are so like matter of fact and down to earth like that. Like when you're not talking over everyone's head. So good. Yeah, Dr. Collada, when Carrie broke her arm, he was fantastic. The pediatric care like that is so underrated. I don't know that it can be properly rated. Oh, Amber, I gotta get you your Girl Scout cookies today. They're sitting up in my office. I'll message your hubby after the show. Ooh, snap. Can you see who that is? Gotcha. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. One segment to go here on Mornings with Brian Haldane as we're closing things out. Thanks again to Dr. Faust for hopping on board. That's very intriguing stuff, and I love getting to report good news. I mean, so much of the news that we report is always revolving around bad news. When Louisiana can be a leader in anything, when Louisiana can move forward like that, very, very cool stuff. I've got like 6 different stories I've got to cover in this last 3.5 minutes. So I'm trying to decide which one I want to start with. How about this? You ready to find another reason to be scared of COVID? Oh, the fear just keeps on coming, y'all. Okay, so if you've already had COVID, and most of us have, 1.228925, 1,228,925 cases of COVID have been reported in Louisiana since the beginning of the pandemic. 345 new ones yesterday. Number of COVID patients in the hospital now down to 286, oh, by the way. So if you're one of those 1.2 million and change, you got this to worry about now. COVID-19 may cause greater loss of gray matter and tissue damage in the brain than naturally occurs in people who have not been infected with the virus, a large new study found. The study, published Monday in the journal Nature, is believed to be the first involving people who underwent brain scans both before they contracted COVID and months after. Neurological experts who were not involved in the research said it was valuable and unique, but they cautioned that the implications of the changes were unclear and did not necessarily suggest that people might have lasting damage or that the changes might profoundly affect thinking, memory, or other functions. Nonetheless, news outlets are running with it, saying, be afraid, be very afraid. The study, involving people aged 51 to 81, found shrinkage and tissue damage primarily in brain areas related to sense of smell. Some of those areas are also involved in other brain functions, the researchers said. Well, didn't we know sense of smell, loss of sense of smell, was one of the side effects of COVID for a lot of people? And hasn't it come back for a lot of people as well? Wouldn't that lend to the possibility that anything that's being studied right now is going to be a short-term effect? I think the bigger question here is who lined up to go get a brain scan before they got COVID? Age 51 to 81. Hey, do me a favor, scan my brain real quick. That way, after I have COVID, you could scan it again. It's not my idea of a fun Wednesday. Anyway, we're going to have to find out where this study is going as the pandemic wears on. 286 folks in the hospital. I'll take it. We're moving along. All right, we got to get out of here. Patrick Gremion, host of the Patty G Show, going to be on with us tomorrow. We are talking about brew. No, not beer. We're talking about Baton Rouge Entrepreneurship Week. It is back in a big, big way. In fact, kicks off tonight. Patty G will have it for us tomorrow. We will also have Crime Stoppers tomorrow. I got a whole slate lined up. So we're getting out of here. Fox News Rundown is coming your way next. It's not till after the show tomorrow. Damn, I'm glad I didn't tease it. So, y'all know Adam Richman? Ever heard the name Adam Richman? Let me remind you. Man versus food. This is the dude that had the show on the Food Network where he would travel all around the country taking on the food challenges. You know that Fat Boy's Pizza? It's got that 2-foot slice of pizza you got to eat in 7 minutes or whatever? Yeah, Adam Richman could crush that. Just destroy it. Well, he, first of all, still alive. Thank God for that. I mean, you go around the country and all you're doing is eating things that are so spicy that you could burn a hole in your colon. And then eating such monstrous amounts in short periods of time that you're just basically stretching, expanding, and contracting your stomach as if it were, a $5 bouncy ball. It's not healthy. So good to hear he's okay. More than that, though, he's got a new show out called Adam Eats the 80s. I have no idea what this is about, but I can't wait to talk to him. That's going to be after the show tomorrow, so it'll air back on Friday. Sean Wilson, DOTD Secretary Sean Wilson, is the guest at the Rotary Club today. We will have that. We'll have some audio for you, some clips from that tomorrow as well. And I'm trying to remember my guest list for tomorrow. It's upstairs, but I got to get out of here, y'all. It is Wednesday, and I have a meeting coming up in just a little bit. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for playing along.